Okay, welcome to the February 19th, 2025 Environmental Quality Commission meeting. This is an in-person meeting and virtual meeting with Environmental Quality Commission members, city staff, and members of the public. We'll do roll call. I would now like to introduce staff and EQC members present in the room. We have Commissioner Headley, Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Kissel, Commissioner Pellegrini-Yopart, and Vice Chair McKenna. Staff present includes Sustainability Manager Rachel Launder, Management Analyst 2 Ori Paz, and Management Analyst 2 Liz Tapia. Ms. Launder, would you please provide instructions to the Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Sure. Welcome to our February 19th meeting. It's good to see you all. I'll share some directions relative to public comment. If you are in person, there are public comment cards over there. And when we make a call for public comment, you can fill one out and return it to myself or Ori. You'll have 3 minutes tonight based on the crowd we have in person and online. And if you're on Zoom, you can hit the raise hand button either at the bottom of your screen or at the right of your name. And if you're calling in from a landline, you can push *9 and we'll be able to unmute you for public comment. That's it for now. I'll return the meeting to you.
Thank you. Under public comment, the public may address the Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the Commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. While you are not required to provide your name or city of residence, it is helpful. The Commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the Commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Sustainability Manager Launder, please call for public comment.
Sure. We'll open up public comment for items not on the agenda. If you'd like to make a comment on something not on the agenda this evening, you can grab a comment card and return it to Ori or myself. If you're online, you can press the raise hand button. And if you're calling in, you can press *9. Looks like we have one comment card. There may be two in the room. And you can fill it out after if you want to make your comment first, but I'll pull up our timer in the meantime. And I'm not seeing any online, so we can proceed with the ones in the room. Okay, and we can start with you, Mr. Schmidt.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Brian Schmidt from Menlo Spark. Might be easier to stand over here so I can actually see people instead of hiding back there. Three brief things. I brought up last year the issue of carbon dioxide removal, which is part of Menlo Park's camp. Wanted to mention that I attended a documentary screening about a week or so ago, and Ori was there as well for Legion 44, a documentary about carbon dioxide removal, which I think is very worth checking out. Also, there's a Volts podcast. About a week ago, they did a special podcast on enhanced rock weathering, which is a form of carbon dioxide removal, which I think is also very interesting thing to follow. And I see that Zach isn't here today, but I say I was privileged to speak to the graduate student seminar that he coordinates. And I talked about Menlo Park and the reach codes that it's done and how it helps lead to the BACMD rules and potential rules elsewhere in the state, and how important that was as a success, despite the problems that have happened with the litigation. And finally, I wanted to mention for folks that have not yet heard about it, there's a pretty distressing proposed piece of legislation, AB 30306, which would limit cities' abilities to do reach codes. My reading and some other people's reading of the proposed legislation is it would stop the enactment of the 2025 reach codes. I understand that one of the bill's sponsors does not believe that's the case, so it might need some improvement. It is one of the sponsors are Speaker Rivas and Assembly members Haney and Wick, and then Schultz from Southern California. 3 of those are very politically powerful. So stopping this is going to be difficult. Something we want. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We have one more comment in the room. Okay, we have Desta Reigns. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself to members of the commission tonight. My name is Desta Reigns, and I put my name in the hat for the seat here that's vacant by Representative Schmidt. So just wanted to say hello, maybe introduce you, give you a little bit about my background. Some of you know me, some of you have never met me before, but In my professional day life, which I rushed from the city today, I work as the head of sustainability at Sephora in North America. So I address all the topics that you sit around the table and talk about here in your monthly meetings on a daily basis. Energy waste, electrification, I cover our operational sustainability. So from our stores to our distribution centers to our headquarters, so day in and day out. And I've had a lot of experience that I would hope to be able to contribute to the city of Orland Park. So thank you for giving me the time. Look forward to sitting in the meeting tonight and hearing more.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, I don't see any more comments in the room or online. So we can close public comment and return the meeting to you, Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to regular business. First item D1 is to approve the January 15, 2025 Environmental Quality Commission meeting minutes. Are there any clarifying questions from EQC before taking public comment? Okay, don't see any. Ms. Longer, do we have any public comment on this item?
Sure, we can open it up for public comment. If you're in the room and would like to make public comment on item D1, approve the January 15th minutes, you can grab a public comment card and return it to Ori or myself. If you're calling in, you can press *9. And if you're on Zoom, you can hit the raise hand feature to make public comment on item D1. Not seeing any comments in the room or online, so we can close public comment and return the meeting to you.
Thank you. We'll open it up now for EQC discussion and a motion.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Third.
Ms. Longer, can you please state the motion?
Absolutely. We have a motion by Commissioner Headley and a second by Commissioner Kissel to approve the January 15th Environmental Quality Commission meeting minutes. And since we don't have everyone here, I think we have to do roll call vote. So I'll just go around and do that. Commissioner Pelegrini, Commissioner
Aye.
Kissel,
Aye.
Abstain.
abstained. Okay. Great. So the motion passes with 4 in favor and 1 abstaining and 1 absent. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to item D2, which is an update on the community-wide electrification grant and providing feedback on expending the second half of funds. So for this item, staff will be making a presentation.
Yep. I am super excited to bring this item to you all. I think it's been long anticipated. And I know you all had a lot of leadership in bringing the funds to the city and making this program come to reality. So it's been a lot of fun bringing the vision to life. And so to that end, we want to share some updates on outreach and how things are going, and also do a little bit of a reality check on where we're going to go next with this program. So I'll start by sharing some background on the program for folks new to the conversation, share some outreach updates, and then some potential vision for what we could do through the end of June 2026. So the state appropriated $4.5 million to the city for community-wide electrification to be expended by June 2026. And we started off on this journey with an agreement with Peninsula Clean Energy for $2.21 million to electrify 40 to 60 homes in our Bellhaven neighborhood. And then staff retained $40,000 for marketing and outreach of that program. The goal is to expend the monies in that contract or the first half of the funds by June 2025 to be able to invoice the state for the second half. We have to get pretty close to fully spent in order to get that second half. And then, of course, to spend down the full grant by June 2026. So our contract with PCE allows us to electrify homes at no cost for income eligible Bellhaven homeowners. Some of the things that we've been providing are heat pump space heating and cooling, heat pump water heaters, induction cooktop stoves, as well as cookware, electric dryers, electrical remediation, minor energy efficiency and weatherization measures, and electric vehicle outlets. I don't think yet any portable batteries have been distributed. And we've been providing monthly updates to City Council on how this program has been going. It officially launched in August of last year at the end of the month. Before I get into some of the program data, I guess I'll share a little bit more about the qualifications. So I mentioned the income piece, so that's 80% of the area median income. The homeowner must also be a PCE residential customer. They must be the legal owner and occupant of the residence. It can be a single family home up to a fourplex, and it has to have either gas-fired water heater or space heater. We have run into homes where the person's not a PCE customer, or they already have electric, space heating and water heating, but they want air conditioning, or they want a stove or something. And then the homeowner must live in the house for 5 years after installation.
What happens if they don't?
So the 5-year piece, it's connected to two things. It's connected to our grant with the state, so they have the ability to audit our electrification projects for up to 5 years, and PCE also has that provision. So if they're not there, in theory, they would have to reimburse the state. So from September to January, so we launched on August 28th, so really September was our launch. We scheduled from September to January, that's the latest data we have. PCE provides us monthly reports on the 5th of the following month, so we'll have February data in a few weeks. But we've scheduled 41 assessments. Of that 41, 22 were completed, 7 turned into project scopes, and 3 are in permitting. And anecdotally, I know we have 1 completed that will be reflected in the next month. And so far, we've only spent money towards program administration and marketing. PCE has not yet invoiced for any of the equipment installs, but we are seeing the scopes come in around 30 to 40,000. So we're seeing some substantial projects, which is exciting. And then we wanted to kind of share this slide to demonstrate that, you know, some interest has been waning, and we know the holidays are kind of a tricky time, but we've seen a significant drop off from when we launched the program and to November, which indicates a period where we did door knocking with Habitat for Humanity, to significantly lower numbers in December and January. And so some of the outreach that we've been doing, we meet with PCE regularly, and they have in their contract an obligation to do marketing and outreach, and they have really unique data sets. So they were able to send emails to customers that meet the program qualifications. They executed an agreement with Climate Resilient Communities and have been creating marketing materials for CRC to share. CRC has been sharing them at community events, but hopefully we'll be doing canvassing next week. And then on the city side, we created our own city flyer that's bilingual English and Spanish. In addition, we created our own application form that's also bilingual. These were things PCE didn't have the capacity to do at program launch. And so our Menlo Park residents, you know, fill out the application on this flyer, and Liz gives them a follow-up call to schedule in PCE's portal. We've been promoting this program since before the soft launch, which is part of the reason why we were able to get so much interest at the beginning of the program. We've been updating our city website, and we also have, if you, after the meeting, check out our electronic messaging board. We have one here as well at BHCC that have a great graphic. Some of the most exciting outreach that I've had a chance to participate in is joining the Bellhaven Neighborhood Association for their meeting, and being a part of the community climate change team meetings. The meeting tomorrow night, we'll share about this program, and we'll have a homeowner speak to her experience. We've also built a really wonderful partnership with Habitat for Humanity. They have our home rehab program, and they're on contract with the city for 0% interest loans for like re-roofing, mold remediation, plumbing, just basic home repair stuff. And so these programs complement each other, and Habitat's making sure that any of their home remediation is coupled with electrification when the homeowner is interested in replacing appliances. We've also been able to share about the program on social media and in our weekly digest. And I already mentioned that bilingual application. So that was some overview on the outreach, and I'd be happy at the end of the presentation to kind of hear some feedback of ways we can maybe bump it up, or if there's any questions on that. And now we can go into some potential options. So the numbers probably spoke for themselves. If you're thinking about 30 or 40,000 per project, and got maybe 7 projects, and so we're kind of chugging along slowly. And so we're thinking about some program enhancements we can do to more quickly spend the funds so we can invoice the state for the second half. And we're also thinking about new project ideas, since this is a wonderful opportunity to explore community-wide electrification broadly. The state grant funds don't have a lot of parameters where we can do anything that we can dream of and can do in a year. So we'll start with the program enhancements, and these would be pretty easy to do and very quick to deploy within our existing contract. With Peninsula Clean Energy, we would get council approval for these items in spring, but would want the EQC to weigh in on what seems to be the most effective. And we could think of these from a couple different lenses around what brings the most benefit to our underserved communities and what's the most equitable, what's the fastest, what has the greatest emission reduction potential. So we'll leave that for discussion, but the first item that we're thinking is increasing the AMI from 80% to 120%, which would align with the city's below market rate housing program. We believe that, you know, by opening it up, we would be able to serve, ooh, the number just gave me, I don't wanna miscalculate that one. But we believe we could spend $1.3 million through our PCE contract if we increase the income. We could increase the geography, so expand outside of Bellhaven and offer this program to 80% AMI across the city. The PCE is already able to serve this audience through their home upgrade program. We could launch a larger marketing campaign to increase community-wide awareness of this program, and potentially, you know, do broader education around electrification. And then for some potential new project ideas, this idea actually came from PCE, so I thought that was exciting. That was easy to implement from their perspective, but we could provide a matching rebate for their heat pump water heater and heat pump heating and cooling systems. So they provide like a $1,500 rebate, and we could offer the same, or we could offer just a boost. The city of Redwood City offers $500 extra. And we could focus on single family, or we could focus on in-unit multifamily upgrades. They don't do upgrades for like shared boiler rooms. It has to be in-unit water heaters, in-unit HVAC systems. Another new project idea could be providing resiliency kits to renters, including portable induction cooktops, mobile heat pumps, solar powered battery generators, space heaters, and other items to wean you off the hardwired kind of gas appliances. If you're in an apartment or in a rental unit. This idea, I think, came from a couple of different places. It was in kind of original EQC conversations around this program, and it's also a part of the environmental justice element. So that could be a nice way to implement that plan. And then the other new project idea here is to include funding of battery installations for projects scoped by PCE that are not improved by the self-generation incentive program. And for all of you not tracking that, the state has a program, SGIP, Self-Generation Incentive Program, that offers free battery installation for income qualified residents. And then they're able to sell stored energy back to the grid. And that program was supposed to launch at the end of last year. It's been delayed by the state. And so PCE has already scoped 20 homes in Menlo Park for that program, and they're ready to apply to that program as soon as it opens. And so they think they'll be able to fund all of them because they're so prepared. But in the event that they can't, we could potentially fund those projects. And PCE does not have the capacity to add any new homes. So it's only the folks who are on the wait list that we could potentially serve. And then two, pausing for folks who are online and maybe joining the room who haven't heard of Peninsula Clean Energy. They're our electricity provider. They are not-for-profit and formed by a city council member in each jurisdiction of San Mateo County and Los Banos. So they source 100% renewable energy for our city, and they are able to provide local programs to our residents with funds that they have from selling the electricity to us. They're also able to provide discounted rates when compared to PG&E. And so these ideas are building off of PCE's existing home upgrade services portfolio of programs, which offer rebates for market rate housing and no cost upgrades for income eligible. Sorry, I should have shared that before, but hopefully that demystifies why we focus so much on PCE and our ability to leverage them with these grant funds. Some other new project ideas are looking at our facilities, our Bellhaven Child Development Center. We have a power purchase agreement with Peninsula Clean Energy for solar, but we have to electrify it before we can install the solar in order to have a high enough electrical load. We're also looking at using that project as an opportunity to explore filtration and use it as a model for clean air technologies. And so that's why, you know, we see kind of a higher end of 680,000, which was scoped by our consultant team, Optiny. Another option could be putting some of the funds towards engineering and electrifying our Burgess Pool campus, since it's the highest natural gas user across our city portfolio. And so if we're thinking about GHG impact, that would be huge. Another opportunity is electrifying our Arriaga Recreation Center, so just across the way, with their HVAC system as well as commercial kitchen. And that project would have a huge community impact, since so many members of our community use that space. And we were excited to be able to consider adding kitchen electrification to a project that was already underway, but that added some additional costs. And then we have the Menlo Park Library HVAC, which we could also electrify. So we'll be making recommendations to expend the complete grant amount to City Council in spring of 2025. We were tracking for March, but PCE is not available for the March meeting, so we'll probably do it the first meeting in April, which I believe is April 15th. Program enhancements and new projects can be initiated upon council approval. And tonight's feedback from the EQC is incredibly valuable as we think about what the preferred program enhancements and new projects are and what we can do for outreach. Additionally, I'd be interested to hear the EQC's perspective on who else we should be asking about this program design beyond this group. I've put out some feelers, but would love to provide something to council that has community consensus and excitement. And that brings us to our discussion. And I do have just the reference slide of the area median income, if anyone wants to see that. Right now, we're serving low 80% AMI. And one of the program enhancement opportunities is to increase. So if you make up to 156,750 for a family of one, you could be eligible for the free upgrades. Currently now it's, if you make under $109,700, you're eligible. So I'll stop there. We can go into clarifying questions and then public comment.
Yeah, thank you for that great presentation. Are there any clarifying questions from EQC before taking public comment? Commissioner Headley.
Yeah, I have two questions. We might want to pull the slides back up on page D 2.5. With the projected fund expenditures based on the current outreach and scoped projects, it looked like having, let's see,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Number 5.
Yeah, I think
Cool.
so.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there we
Thank
are.
you.
it seems to me that the number of projects completed estimated by the end of June and the funds expended seemed really optimistic. So I'm wondering, is that number, the 1.05, is that money that we want to keep set aside for the current amount of outreach that has happened, just in case they all get to that point, so we're not pulling things back?
Yeah, so, one kind of, yes, and one way we could think about it is the PC didn't receive a check from the city for 2.21 million. So we can kind of start another project at the same time
Hmm.
because we have the funds in our
Oh, great.
Menlo Park City.
But we
bank
kind of
account.
want to keep this amount
Yeah.
set aside based on what's currently
Yeah.
in the queue. Okay.
Yes, yep,
So I have the same question now, so just clarification,
Yeah.
so this is what we're planning to have invoices
yes,
by?
yeah,
Or what we want to have, I mean, this is
No,
what we expect.
this is what we're expecting, but it's 1 million short of what our contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. My other question. Let's see. Was on page 11. I think you answered it. Actually, I have 3 questions, but the one, if we were to increase the income eligibility to 120%, is that the cost of the actual electrification, this 1.35? Or is that some other?
Oh, yeah, that's what it would cost to electrify and we use the census data. I don't know, Liz, if you have it off the top of your head. But we.
I
were
think it
able
was
to-
45 more homes, with a 12% interest,
Okay.
rate.
Is that based on people who have applied that don't qualify that we know?
No,
No, no, folks, are not applying if they,
They know they're not.
right,
Gonna
because the
qualify.
survey says, yeah.
So we're just anticipating if we relax the financial requirements that more people will apply.
Yeah, so as Liz was saying, there's, I think, 375 homes that meet the 120. And then we've seen, based on the 80%, like, was it 12% or 14%?
12%.
12% interest in the program, so out of,
I see they apply the same.
yeah,
percentage
so if we're
to
thinking
Clark.
12% of the 375 are interested. And then times the average scope cost.
45 homes times 30,000 is that, yeah.
I had one last question.
Yeah, no problem.
Can we eliminate the 5-year requirement to live in your home post electrification, or is that something that is a requirement by the state or piece?
Yeah, so that one is a state requirement. However, I wouldn't want to discourage folks if they have like an uncertainty. I think it's more to prevent folks from flipping homes. And so if the uncertainty is, you just don't feel that stable in the Bay Area, we think this program can help you stay in your home
Mm.
and can help reduce your operating costs of your home, help keep you more comfortable. And so we think this is a great solution for folks who are feeling unstable and would still encourage you to apply. But we have had a few folks who
Yeah.
not applied because of that.
Okay.
And it is hard to communicate that.
Commissioner Hill?
I had a question, in your opinion, given that there's a certain amount that we've expected already in terms of money, are we at significant risk of not getting to 2 million? Yeah. And this is a certainty, perhaps you would characterize?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and so, in terms of recommendations, you're looking for, ultimately to make a decision about a portfolio of different things that would altogether give a good likelihood of hitting that.
Yes,
Okay, and so speed would be a factor.
speed is certainly a factor.
Got it. And so with regard to speed, if we were, say, electrifying the library, does the actual spending of the money get us there under the wire, or is it more signing a commitment to pay for something that's yet to happen?
No, we have to spend it. The check has to be paid to the contractor. And the electrification project actually has to be complete. We have to do a final report to the state.
Thank you.
So we should really be thinking of May 2026 or April, March.
Mr. Kittle? If you go back to slide 5,
Sorry, there's a little lag.
Okay.
Perfect.
there we go. What is the reason that, assessments are not completed? So it looks like we're not complete half of the scheduled assessments. What's happening?
Yeah, so there are some challenges with the contractor. So that's a part of it. They do a limited amount of assessments every week. They only offer them on 3 days a week, so we've been working with them to offer more availability there. We've also had quite a few cancellations. And I think that can be attributed to a couple of different things, but I think folks might get confused when they, sign up with the city and then they're handed off to Franklin Energy and or maybe their child signed them up, because we've been talking to a lot of folks who said like, I'm gonna sign my mom up for this. So that's maybe a little window into what's happening there. I don't know, Liz, if you have anything to add on why we're not seeing the assessments convert.
Yeah, most of them are just about a month out, so we'll see maybe another 10 done for the next update. And then after that, that's really what the trend is, and the holdup is that the limited number of available appointments.
And likewise for the next drop off to project scope phase. Well, I'm just wondering why at each phase we're losing pretty significant percentages.
Yeah, we're losing a lot of people on the journey. I think it's just been a lot slower in between assessing the scoping with Franklin, and PCE is trying to troubleshoot that with their team.
But who does the scoping? Is it also Franklin?
Yes.
So they do an assessment and then they do.
So
the
sorry,
scope?
Franklin does the assessment and then the contractor goes out and does the scoping. And the idea was to have that be one step. And so PCE is working with Franklin to train their assessment staff to be able to do the higher level scoping. Because the scoping is a much more technical process, and the assessors who are going out aren't currently at that level. And so they're kind of having to do multiple visits where there's an assessment, and then they're having the contractor come out to do the scoping. And the vision was to have the assessment include the scoping, someone who is trained enough to do that.
Okay, another, I don't know this clarifying or discussion, but has there been any work done to determine the greenhouse gas reduction impact per dollar spent on any of the alternatives that we've considering?
That's a great question. No, not on the alternatives. And then as far as on, well, I guess we have a variety of reports, but we don't have it presented here today. We certainly have it for the city facilities, not so much on the other program enhancements. And then PCE is launching a zero home tool, which will enable us to see like the exact GHG saved per home. But that tool is still in development. So in the meantime, we'll likely start reporting out emission savings that are more based on assumptions than based on actual utility bills. But hopefully next month we'll be able to share some emission reductions from the first 2 homes.
Is there any sort of a ranking of these options, sort of against GHG emissions or speed to spend? Because if we might rank them by speed to spend and then impact of spending, we might be able to get to an answer. So for instance, if we decide to kick in the $500 the way Redwood City does, that would be really fast. But I don't know the scale of it. You get my point.
Yeah, totally.
So I fired up a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I love that. We talked about doing something like that in advance of the meeting, but didn't want to get too ahead of ourselves. So we could certainly do that as part of the discussion.
So let's see, have a couple of questions, but can you remind us on the, at the very beginning, what's the scope of the project? Is this, I thought it was for low income, is that what it is or no?
Yeah,
So
so,
is it Bellhaven? only?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's first, the first slide.
yeah. So the program, as we've built it, is for income eligible Bellhaven residents. The program, as the state defined it, is community-wide electrification project. So this, we kind of took our priorities as a city on environmental justice and brought
Okay.
this program to Bellhaven, but
So
this,
as far as spending the money, we have full flexibility on what we can do. Okay. Okay, then the next question, that was kind of a basic question here. So as it has been described, but the ramp up seems very aggressive. I guess my first question would be trying to understand how the pipeline is working. I mean, it's a question that was being asked before. Just looking, my first reaction would be looking at I guess slide 6. Between October and November and December, we have had an election. The main community we're trying to reach, as far as I know, it's Hispanics. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of fear in general. I mean, I know people that I stay in their houses. We're handing people from one place to another, we're asking for questions. I would not be surprised if there's a big impact here on that. But I mean, I don't see any data here about where the pipelines are, what's going on. I mean, I'm not complaining, I'm just saying. I don't know how to address this. I mean, my first reaction would be, we need to get people in the ground. The people that go to the CRC
Yeah.
meeting tomorrow and ask them what's going on. But I wouldn't be surprised if people are just saying, no, I'm not going to stick my neck out here because the meter is around and
Yeah.
if I say something and they start looking,
that's real. Let's bring that to discussion. But to talk about,
but I mean,
yeah,
my
yeah.
question is, I don't, do we have any more data than this about what's going on?
it is very hard because Franklin Energy has the the customer relationship tool, and PCE even has limited visibility into it and being able to like pull reports. And so we don't have, like, we
Hmm.
can like look at each home and read the notes. And so that might be what we need to start doing, and start asking PCE to do, but,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. They're still
And,
trying to
and,
get
and
Franklin.
the evaluation is done by Fuse?
So the first home assessment is done by Franklin.
Yeah.
And then the scoping is done by Fuse.
Okay, and Fuse, last time I talked with them, they were. This is an observation. I think they had a lot of Eastern European people there. With, I remember
Yeah,
some
I
conversation about
used them. Yeah.
issues
They
having
are
to do with
definitely-
language, reach out.
We
Yeah.
have heard that.
Yeah, so this seems very problematic.
Yeah, let's bring that to the discussion.
Let me check if I have any more questions. Yeah, the other ones.
I would say.
Our discussion.
My experience with Fuse is they're very competent. I do think there's a communications challenge, but they know their stuff.
Yeah, I had the same reaction when I talked with them on community events.
Yeah, I'm working with them. Their HQ is very difficult to communicate. They're super helpful and knowledgeable. and nice.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you have any language issues, it's problematic.
And even if you speak English, it's very.
Any other clarifying questions?
Yeah, I had a few, so I assume it's a small number, but how many of the people that don't qualify are non-PCE? Is it because they're non-P? Because that's like a simple fix.
Yeah, so one who applied definitely was, and she then became a PC customer, and then she had the electric space heating already, and she wanted to heat up her air conditioning. I mean, we are really in the weeds with some of these homeowners, so we really know their life stories, and
But do we have an idea of how many Bellhaven residents, homeowners are not PCE customers?
at the neighborhood association, there were at least 2 who weren't. And so I then pulled back and started doing education on PCE and
Yeah.
looking at understanding bills, and
Yeah,
so maybe that's even a part of our marketing and communications. But it is prevalent. I think we have one of the lowest opt-outs across the counties. I think we're at like 1%. You probably know better than.
Yeah, I think it's
than I-
possible.
What's by default in, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but people see the extra line on their utility bill.
You know, there's a, it's kind of a little bit of side comment, but there's a next door thread going on about people complaining about the extra fees they're paying for PCE. They think that
Yeah.
that line item is a double charge. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just amazing how you look at, you know, you think stuff is obvious and it's just not.
Well, it's not that obvious. I mean, those bills are,
Yeah,
but yeah.
well, you know, but
And PC just lowered their rates too, and so I think it's even a better story to continue communicating.
But
Yeah.
the general observation by some people is they think they're overpaying because they have to get green energy.
Yes,
If you're paying like 30% more because they see this line item.
Yeah.
It's-
and I think we're seeing that more with the 80% AMI, people are looking more closely at their bills. Yeah, the answer, we don't have an exact number.
Yeah.
I think so far we've encountered one in the application process, and I've seen a couple out at outreach events.
Okay, and then, I guess Liz might have this answer, but it sounds like there's 375 homeowners that would qualify under the program if we bumped it up to 120% of AMI. How many homeowners are there now that are 80%? Like, how much of an increase is that? How many more homes do become eligible?
Yeah, the increase was the 375. I don't quite remember the other number, but like in total it was 700 something homeowners. I can get back to you on that after the meeting.
Okay,
and
so
look it up.
375 is the difference. That's
Yeah.
how many new homeowners.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
151 estimated owner occupied homes in Bellhaven and 1,018 single family properties.
But I guess that answers my question. That's another close to 400 homeowners that would qualify if we
Yes.
bumped it up. So that's significant. I think you answered this, Commissioner Hill brought it up, but the money has to be spent by June of this year to get the second half. It can't just be committed.
It has to be spent before we can invoice for the second half.
Yeah.
I sent them an invoice for the second half and they kind of laughed at me. They said like, oh, no, that's cute. You have to spend it. So I tried.
That's cute.
Just to follow up very briefly, and what happens if we don't? We lose the second half?
Yes, but we can invoice for it at, they don't have a hard deadline for when we invoice for the second half. I just don't think we can invoice for it much after June of this year and realistically be able to spend it.
And I suppose an extension is off the table because of
Yeah,
California budget.
I also got it. That's
Yeah.
cute when I asked about that.
The numbers you project for the next few months until June were like based on the previous month's pace, but CRC is just now starting their outreach, so
Right.
should we like anticipate more interest once CRC starts their, you know, robust outreach to the community?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think we've gotten a lot of the folks who've been waiting years for these upgrades who are engaged really early on in the process. Karen, a CCC team member, and I think someone from Menlo Spark put together a spreadsheet and they were the first folks notified and with the soft launch. So many of the 41 scheduled assessments weren't organic leads from our outreach. They were from Karen and Menlo Spark's pre-work. And so I think the folks who are really excited have already signed up. And so I don't know how many really excited people are left for CRC to find.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do have deep roots in the community, especially around like energy programs, so.
Just a couple more. The matching rebate suggestion, is that for anybody? That's just whether you're
Yeah.
market rate or low income, if you want to do something in your home, you can basically double your rebate.
Yeah.
If Menlo Park matches it,
Yeah.
okay. So that doesn't really help uptake in Bellhaven or low income because that's already completely paid for by the program.
Right, we could do matching in Bellhaven for folks who aren't income eligible rather than increasing the AMI.
And then the SGIP option, that's just a battery, it's not also solar? rooftop solar.
I think it was, solar.
Oh,
I think it's
Okay.
typically
I didn't think it said
in
solar,
general.
just said
Yeah.
battery.
in the conversations I've been having with PCE, we've just been saying storage, but maybe we each have different interpretations, so I can
Yeah,
clarify
I mean,
with PCE.
SGIP in general includes solar, but I don't know for this particular case, what do they mean? I mean, it means self-generation
yeah.
incentive program.
So
Yeah,
for-
it would make sense that it includes solar.
Yeah,
I didn't read.
So further
Yeah.
clarification on that, it's, the program is for, the proposal is for folks who don't qualify. So why don't people qualify for SGIP?
It's a very competitive program, so the 20 people we know qualify and they have their scopes. It's just a matter of if a jurisdiction in Southern California has more people organized submitting applications, since it's a statewide program, we don't really have a lot of visibility in how quickly it's gonna fill up. I think last round it filled up in like minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying, okay, so people who have applied and not
Been
gotten
served, yes,
into it, then
yes.
we would
Yeah,
offer an alternative to
Yes.
that statewide program.
Yes.
I see. It wasn't, they weren't qualified for income or.
no, these are income qualified.
Yeah,
And then I think we sort of talked about this already, but we just don't have a sense of why there's not more interest in general. I mean, I've heard that it's concern about rates and PG&E reliability and being in an all-electric home, so. But are we hearing anything like meaningful from the community on why there's not more interest?
There's a ton of interest when we do outreach events. I think some of it comes down to the eligibility. A lot of folks, I think, are renting too, so they're excited and then find out that they're not eligible for that reason. I think that's probably one of the biggest barriers, but we haven't yet been able to convince PCE to open up their program to renters, and we don't have the bandwidth to upstand a new program for renters. The other concerns that I've heard, have really been more focused on like the smaller appliances, like the cooking and the dryers, and less so on the larger appliances. So I think part of it is a matter of just finding the right people. And I think it's very tricky for us to find who the homeowners are at the 80% AMI. But I don't know, Liz has been having phone conversations with everyone who applies, so I don't know if Liz, you've captured other feedback.
Yeah, it's a lot about like the quality of they doubt the quality of the appliance that they're receiving, or there's nothing comparable to what they currently have, and then not being sure if their utility bill is going up, and then some of them just don't really have an understanding of, like, they didn't even know if they had PCE or not, but that's been a lot of explaining, like, yes, you do, and so they'll go forward with the assessment after having that discussion.
Any other clarifying questions?
I think you're right answer, but can I just, very
Sure.
basic here, so the model is, we have to have invoice up to 2.5. If we don't
2.25.
make it,
Yeah.
if we don't make it, we lose the rest.
Correct, well. Correct, I mean, we have to spend 2.25. Before we can invoice the second half, and so if we don't spend it, we can't invoice.
But technically, we have until June of 2026 to
Yeah.
spend whatever we can spend,
Exactly.
so. We could conceivably spend the 2.25 by the end of this year and then ask for the
Yeah,
second half.
yep.
Yeah, okay.
Both all kind of the admin.
Yeah.
So,
That might lose a month or two.
so that's, or you got it, I didn't get it. So how is the second part, work?
It's paid to the city upon completion of spending the first half.
But we don't have to make it by the June? right?
We don't have to make it by June 2025. That's an,
So what
efficient.
is the things that we lose if we don't? Just talking about how to maximize the spend, right?
yeah,
It's like, what do we lose if we don't make the 2.6 by June
nothing. By June 2026 or June 2025,
25?
nothing. We can still keep working on spending and then invoice when we're ready. but I think there's a certain point where they won't give us the second half. I can ask the state,
So we'd be in the safest position
yes,
if we have spent the 2.25 by June.
yes,
This
June.
June, 25,
June. yeah,
so that we can invoice the second part.
yeah.
So
Okay.
it seems like speed is even
Yeah.
more important than greenhouse gas impact, unfortunately. I mean,
Right.
so to Susanna's idea of the spreadsheet, I mean, I think we ought to rank on both, but wait, the speed factor even more.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we
Beam
can
me up,
also,
we can have a look.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
we can also, I know
Yeah, a
we're
couple more steps.
it's
Yeah.
clarifying comments, but we can also add new ideas to this list, but thinking really about the city infrastructure. We all know, we have to do competitive procurement processes and how long that can take to put out an RFP or RFQ, and then going through contracting can take several months. And so when we think about new ideas, we might have to ground it in some of the reality of city procurement processes.
Mhm.
All right, sound good. Thank you.
Ms. Launder, do we have any public comment on this item?
Let's open it up for public comment. If you are in the room and would like to make public comment, there are cards over there. You can grab them and return them to me. Of course, I think.
Like,
And then if you're online, you can hit the raise hand button. And if you're calling in, you can press *9, and we have one card in the room and we have one raised hand online. So we'll start in the room. Let me just get my timer going, and we'll have 3 minutes. And so we'll start with Mr. Jeff Schmidt.
Good, hi everyone, in case you haven't met me, Jeff Schmidt. So I'll put on my kind of climate concerned citizen hat for this one. But somebody who's really got some good insights into getting this in front of the council. So the speed thing is, I would recommend is really important, but food for thought as you're packaging this up is, there's a lot of big stuff coming at the city in this critical kind of time period around downtown, big developments, RV parking, the childcare stuff is probably gonna get big at some point. So as you're thinking about this, I know it's tempting to present this as it's being really well managed and it's great, and I think that's something to convey to city council. But I would also recommend communicating really clearly a sense of urgency to get this done, because I think it makes folks pay attention. And because you're competing against so many other things that is sucking in energy and attention. My food for thought is like, how do you package it as well managed? And we do have some time, but you can't knock this back down to number 11 on the priority list. So two things. One is March 22nd is the meeting coming up where we're gonna prioritize this. Some folks are gonna put climate on the list. But then there's a way to kind of dive into that. So one is I'd recommend maybe making sure it's on the list, making sure we can get it high. But that doesn't actually mean that's the way things get implemented, just because it's on the list. Climate was number 1 last year. I don't know that climate got every bit of attention. So that's one thing to think about. And two is, as this comes back up in front of council, I would say, don't be fearful about lighting a fire and saying, this is really urgent because the money, we're gonna lose the money. And this, you probably heard some council members say, like, this money's drying up. It's gonna get super competitive. Leaving it on the table is a terrible option for the city. So just lighting that fire under city council in a way that still shows it's well managed and we're not mismanaging it, but that those folks really need to pay attention to this one as a priority. It's just a little food for thought as you're kind of coming to the end stages. Hopefully I was allowed to do that.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll circle back on that one.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comment. And we do have one more comment in the room, so we'll take that before going to the hand raise online. We have Mr. Brian Schmidt, and you're good to start whenever you'd like.
Start. Thanks, everyone, and three comments I had were about speed, politics, and prioritization. They conflict with each other, unfortunately. The speed, I think, is really important. The political issue that hasn't been raised yet is that While this might be optimistic, you're looking at 2026, I would not eliminate the possibility of getting a reauthorization of this funding. So we want to spend this money in a way that maximizes the opportunity of getting that reauthorization. And within that type of prioritization, I tend to think of what potential ways of spending this money is going to do that. I think helping low income folks is what's going to do the most in terms of being attractive on the state level, and to incentivize our state representatives to try and work on this. I would tend to looking at the potential program enhancements. I would see three categories. One of which is appealing to lower income folks. Like the resiliency kits to renters or the funding of battery installations. The second is a more broader general public category. The third is city oriented, city projects, city lands. And I would basically prioritize those in that order of what type of spending. Problem, of course, is you don't have much time. So we want to be spending things in different categories. One way maybe to do that would be to that category that I'd say might be second, like the matching rebate for heat pump water heaters for anybody. Put a limit on how much can happen in any quarter. So it can get some money out, maybe have it relatively high early on. And then if it looks like we're doing well, then start focusing more on lower income folks. The city projects and city-owned properties are ones that the city has had a commitment to do, and it's got some time to do that. I'm not sure if the state funding is the best way to achieve that, as opposed to the city doing that elsewhere. And I think the state funding, something could be spent outside the city in a way that it would be difficult for the city to be able to use some funding to do, or at least some. The one exception to that for Electrify Arriaga Recreational Center, the commercial kitchen. I think getting back to politics, I think about politics, is helping people realize that you can have non-gas based kitchens on a commercial level. I think that'd be really helpful in dealing with that issue. And then, the last thing I was going to say is that Menlo Spark is still looking at doing a hire that could be focusing partly on community outreach, hoping to get that process rolling. We might be of some assistance. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Brian. Okay, and we have one raised hand. Let me allow you to speak. Okay, Nicole, you should be good.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I was having some connectivity issues, so hopefully I will hang through this this comment. So this is Nicole Angel. I have had the pleasure of meeting several of you. I am a resident of Menlo Park. I'm also the owner of my own climate coaching and consulting business called Carbon Cutout. And I'm really excited to see this great set of project ideas. I think they're all really very impactful. I think it's so important to look at the greenhouse gas reduction potential of each of them. So I like that there's discussion around that. And of course, prioritizing lower income members of our community is of the utmost importance as well. So having said that, I'd really love to see the city of Menlo Park walk the talk and electrify city facilities using some of the allotted grant funds. I feel like it's just a great way to show leadership and commitment while visibly, setting an example for residents to follow suit. So I think that also if you offered the matching rebate for the hot water and space heating heat pumps, that's a really nice complement to that, and it supports residents in making that transition too, and could, like Brian said, probably be mobilized more quickly than the city, which, would take some time to line up. But anyway, a combination of those, I think, would work really well together. So thanks for the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Thank you, Nicole, for your comment. Looking back online, I don't see any more hands raised and I don't see any cards in the room. So we can close public comment and return the meeting for discussion.
Okay, thank you to all the public commenters. Open it up for EQC discussion.
My first question on the current plan is understanding the different bottlenecks. I mean, if the issue is that the people are renters and the program is focused on homeowners is one. If the issue is trusting who they are talking to is a different one. If it's a language, it's a different one. If the issue is not understanding what the real cost of electrification is, without knowing that is a bit hard to plan. I mean, we can make guesses, but. And then I think that making different assumptions, we can make different ideas about what to do. For example, I mean, on the renters, I think that there are things that renters can use. Just one that I don't think has been discussed is a window-based AC is something that a renter can have. I mean, there are new heat pump based units, and those things are somewhat expensive, and everybody will want them. Right? I mean, they are just available out there. I think that would get good traction. I'm guessing without data, it's hard to tell. But something like that a renter can say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I want it," and it's helping us because it's electric. And they'll want it for AC. Right? I mean, but without more information, we're guessing. We can make the best we can about the guessing.
Share that with you.
Oh, great, thank you.
So, I agree with what you're saying, Eduardo, about the existing program. We really need to understand the dynamics of what it's gonna take to make that more successful. I guess I would ask us collectively as a group, if we have the data that shows that, it's not getting the trajectory that we want. I think we put it out there to begin with because it checked a lot of boxes of what we were trying to achieve. If we now have a timeline that says, we need to achieve, political results and ecological results in a time frame, how much more time and effort do we put in that program as opposed to letting it run its course as we think it will, and double down our efforts in other areas where we think we're going to get, timely environmental impact. I, for one, am very concerned about our whole administration's pivot away from addressing climate change. And we should be thinking hard and fast about every dollar spent on how much impact it's going to have on greenhouse gas, independent of speed or politics. But I understand the speed component just from the standpoint of potentially losing the fund. But to me, it should be, where's the uptake going to come the fastest? That's going to have a big greenhouse gas impact. And everything else is second order.
I'm very sympathetic to that one. I think at the part that I would raise a question mark is there is already a significant tension between one side of Menlo Park and another side of Menlo Park. I think that investing heavily in this side of Menlo Park, and even though there are real benefits on some of the like Burgess pool, etc. I'm a bit worried about that.
Well, so to the heat pump hot water heater, that is almost always the first or second largest source of greenhouse gas in everybody's home.
Yeah, no,
So if you want to limit it to just Bellhaven or just low income.
Yeah.
But that one,
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were talking specifically about the Burgess Pool and Arriaga Recreational Center and Menlo Park.
no, I'm just saying that whatever, whatever, whether it's individual residences or it's city-owned facilities, dollar spent reduces how much gas.
I agree. I'm just guessing that that's,
And so, I mean,
That's in this
if we
neck of
can,
the
yeah,
woods,
if number one on that criteria can be done in time frame, then it's a no-brainer. What will happen is if it turns out that the ones that are gonna have the highest environmental impact are also gonna be the slowest to get done, then we have to have a different conversation.
Big calling on people.
Be happy to go around the room. Yes, would you like to the next, Commissioner Headley?
I do have some thoughts. I'm looking forward to seeing your spreadsheet, Susanna. And before we get there, I am thinking about, like, I would love to have this money really benefit the Bellhaven community. And also want to make sure that we spend this as quickly as possible. So the ones that really are resonating for me are the SGIP program, because that seems like it's ready to go. We can spend the money. It's going to benefit lower income homeowners. And I also really like the idea of electrifying the Bellhaven Child Development Center, because it's based in Bellhaven, and, you know, kids are so much more susceptible to the gas, you know, the asthma that comes from gas in buildings and also outside. So I think that would be a really great thing to do. I also like going to the 120% of AMI, but I'm concerned that that's going to be a slow uptick given everything else. So I don't know if we'll be able to spend the money fast enough. I wasn't, the resiliency kits, if those have been asked for by the community, I love that idea. I like the idea of being responsive and tying what we're doing here to the EJ element. But that was one of my questions, was like, who asked for it? And how do we do it? But if it's part of the EJ element, I think that's been asked for by the community.
Yeah, it is part of the EJ element. NCRC did a pilot where they distributed 16 solar powered battery generators, and they had, I think, a larger list of interested folks.
Okay.
And I actually got the idea for the portable heat pump unit from one that Brian shared with me.
Nice.
So that type of unit was on the
Yeah.
resilience kit list,
Yeah.
and they are expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are. I like that idea. Okay, that's what I have to say.
Just kind of a clarifying question, and Commissioner Hill can, we can bring up her spreadsheet if you want. Do we have any sense of the number of therms of gas being used by each of these different? I know we don't have emissions, but therms can be a proxy for emissions, so I'm just thinking about the Burgess pool. Like, I've heard it's like equivalent to 100 homes of gas per year. So
That's huge.
on the face of it, it seems like that has the greatest impact on emissions. But, you know, is there really additionality in doing that if the city already has plans to do it anyways? And I just don't know what the situation is with where the funding is for that from the city, and if it's gonna happen eventually or not. But I agree with the sentiment that I think the spirit of this money was for low-income households in Bellhaven, and I would love for us to figure out a way to utilize the money that way. But I feel like we don't have enough really data to really make a really informed decision on some of this stuff, so if there's any sort of ballpark figures we could sort of generate this evening on therms, like per home versus per pool, per community center, that could be helpful in us deciding. And I think it's all about equitable emissions reduction, what we're trying to achieve, and I don't think we have all the information able to make a good decision. But Commissioner Hill, did you have some?
Well, we might
comments?
be able to quantify in terms of like number of homes. So when you said Burgess Pool being the same as 100 homes, well, if we increase the income availability of the project in Bellhaven, then that would add 50 homes.
If they choose to participate.
Our best guess,
Right.
if we do it, we'll get, I don't know what it is, 50 homes.
Yeah,
And then, well, more marketing, would that increase our penetration by 10%? Okay, then that's 12 homes. I bet we could ballpark it in terms of number of homes.
Yeah.
But there's some that are gonna be kind of right, I think, right off the list because of the time to do it, no?
Yeah, I think we really need to prioritize the speed, which is why I'm thinking the SGIP battery and the Bellhaven Child Development Center. And then plus a couple of other things.
You think Bellhaven is gonna be too long?
Bellhaven, which one?
The electrifying Bellhaven, you were saying it might be too slow.
No, I think,
It would be
I
fast.
think we could do that quickly because only the city has to say yes. It's like one person saying yes versus 100 individual homeowners.
But going through the RFP, I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
Going through the RFP. We could probably get it done.
I think we can get it done.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can. I feel like the
We can
city
definitely get it.
ones are guaranteed.
And these
Yeah,
were all reviewed by our public works director too, in terms of like feasibility. And I could share other funding sources that we have for some of them. There's another grant funding opportunity through PCE. Our member agency grant is 786,000. So that we could use for, if we don't use this 4.5 million towards the Bellhaven Child Development Center, we'll use the 786 for the Child Development Center. If we use the 4.5 towards the Child Development Center, then we can use the 786 towards the pool. And then we have about $1 million in CIP for Burgess campus electrification, which falls very short of electrifying the pool and library.
How much for the pool? Do you know?
We have,
CIP?
It's 3 million.
so we have 1.2 million.
This is,
And so the 3 million would be added to the 1.2?
Oh, that's the amount it would cost, not how much we have.
Okay, so
oh,
Oh.
you're saying the CIP is what's remaining in,
CIP is like matching funds that we could. So CIP, we've budgeted in the city budget 1.2 million for Burgess campus electrification. And we anticipate that it will cost it's exponentially more,
so we would take about 1.8 million out of the 4.5
Yeah.
million that we have,
Okay.
correct,
not 3 million.
correct.
And that can
Are any of
be,
the other
and that can be
need to be
spent by the deadline.
Our public works team believes they can if we got started on it.
So, sorry, so you own this spreadsheet, right?
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about adding something here to capture whether it's helping low income,
okay, yeah,
a column?
I would intended to capture it here, but we can make it up.
And the other thing, because it sounds like maybe we want to come up with $3,450,000 to spend.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So the 4.5 minus what we think is gonna happen through the program.
Yes,
Okay. Okay, and maybe we can prioritize, and maybe that would be enough, like if we say like, okay, here's the top priorities, and then you can go away and
Yeah.
get some other feedback and.
Yeah.
Would that be helpful?
that'd be wonderful. Yeah, and we
Okay.
can always come back next month too.
Okay,
Can I ask a question of a public commenter to define a word?
Oh, sure.
Reauthorization, what, does that imply an extension or what does that mean?
right, or is it a re-up more?
I want
Or
more.
more time.
No,
I
more
want more
money.
money.
More
Yeah.
money? Okay.
Okay, I have,
But sorry, but at any time, the money can go away.
the second half go away.
yeah,
That's what we're worried, about, right?
Right, I mean, like, the last time I heard about SGIP, last year, that's why I was always confused. I thought that was pulled out.
I think the public comment intent was that if we spent the money on low income programs, then there's a better chance of getting more money.
Right.
Yes,
the SCHIP battery funding benefits low income people.
correct.
Mhm.
It wasn't clear from the slides.
I have a comment about resilience. I mean, I like the concept, but I don't, I mean, the notion of resilience is you use it when you need it. So it really is not going to reduce any greenhouse gases.
Although the portable induction stove, that can really
Right, but yeah, but
impact
I wouldn't
your air
define those as,
quality.
okay, it might be under the same packet, but I think it does not as much of resilience as being able to use, but I don't know how many people are going to use a portable, I mean, I have a portable induction. Either you gave it, somebody loaned me.
Yeah.
I use it for about a week and then I put it on a corner.
Oh, before I had my my induction stove, I used that for everything I could. And I think especially for families that have people with asthma in the house, that would be a huge shift for them.
That-
The resiliency
that might be
kits
worth
could
it.
include
Yeah.
the portable heat pump.
Well,
Yeah.
the portable heat pump, I think, is different because that thing is going to be used because it's hot.
Yeah.
You don't have AC.
For the
but-
heat.
So if it were in the resiliency kit, then it isn't just about.
Yeah, but I would prioritize that one over some of the other things. Just because I think.
You
that
mean
is
putting
going-
the heat pump in the resiliency kit
Yeah, for
versus
sure.
putting other things?
Yeah.
Anyhow, just to clarify.
So whatever recommendations we make won't get to council until April.
Yeah, the intent was to bring it in March, but with PC's scheduling conflict, it'll be April, so we could talk about it at the next meeting.
I think we can get more data.
Yeah.
We didn't.
I think
Electrify Ariaga, how does that impact low income people?
Because everybody uses it. It's a public facility.
Yeah, but it's on
No.
this side of the,
It's this side, nobody comes from there,
yeah,
nobody.
Okay.
I mean, everything that's on this side
yeah,
is now going to impact Hell Bill.
I agree.
I mean,
okay.
I live.
And
close to
also
Ariaga,
Burgess
I don't
Pool
cross
is a
it.
no.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So maybe we can go through and just like validate the low income piece. Okay, so increasing, yes. Bellhaven, Child Development Center, SGIP, resiliency kits, more marketing?
Yeah, more marketing to get more uptake in Bellhaven.
Yeah,
I think it's important to make sure everybody knows so they have a
Yeah.
chance to opt in. I think it's extremely critical.
um,
I do get the sense that the SGIP program would increase uptake dramatically because all of the feedback that I've heard from the community is based on if I electrify my home,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be having higher electricity bills, higher energy bills
Yeah.
altogether. I'm gonna be subject to PG&E power outages. I'm not gonna have the resiliency. I'm not gonna be able to cook when the power goes out. And a solar and storage program eliminates or alleviates a lot of those concerns. And I don't know, I would love to hear other people's thoughts if we think that that would dramatically
I'm 100%.
increase uptake
Yeah.
of the program.
Clarification, sorry, I mean, what you're saying is very interesting, so, where are you getting that feedback?
Just in talking to folks, a few folks in Bellhaven.
Same, I've had the same experience, like from a lot of the community outreach that we did like a year or 2 years ago. That was the main concern is the cost, but if you're generating solar and you're storing it with the battery, it's a huge incentive to electrify everything else.
It
Do
may
you
be,
know in that, sorry, just to fill that one.
Yeah.
Because the big it seems to me that one of the big challenges with this would be lovely, right? But a question is, how many of those people own the house?
Well, it's already been scoped, they've already been approved. Right?
Right, that the program's only for homeowners, so.
Yeah,
Right, no, but you're saying that the feedback you're hearing is from people that were qualified. They were
No, this was
homeowners.
like just in the run up to this opportunity. And people indicating some hesitation in taking advantage of the program. And that
Okay,
was the
okay,
reason.
So it was in the context of the program,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
so-
other sort of complication is how old's the roof on this home and does that need to be replaced before you put solar on?
but
That's
that
what
could maybe be
included.
part of the Habitat for Humanity piece,
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, that is something we've heard a lot, if folks can get solar and battery through this program, and that we've started coordinating really intentionally with Grid Alternatives and have made a lot of referrals to their program for the solar piece at least.
And I don't know, maybe in the next couple months, that can be something that CRC uses in their outreach is if they're getting pushback from folks or lack of interest, well, would it be different if you had solar and storage? Would that increase your likelihood of taking, and then it would just be helpful to have some data, real data from the community on whether or not adding that to the program would make a difference.
can. I know that you wanted to, just a second, let me finish. Can we add roofing to this?
It's not currently scoped in PC's contract with Franklin.
Yeah, but could we put it in the envelope? Because I mean, I can see a situation where you talk with somebody who's reluctant and you say, oh, we're going to give you 50% of the cost of re-roofing. And I would sign it as a homeowner. Because now I'm seeing this as, because the reality is if you are putting solar, you have to re-roof almost all the time. But
Unless
that's
it's a
a
newer
lot.
roof.
I mean,
And
just
not
put it
provide
in the-
solar or just,
Sorry?
couple
No,
it
in
with solar.
conjunction with solar.
in conjunction with solar. So,
That's-
yeah, I mean, solar is a bigger, battery is a biggie. It's NBT, so you have to do both. But,
PCE
oh, and
definitely
you'll get a
won't do it.
roof out of this thing
Yeah.
too, and then I would sign it.
Yeah, I think so too. I just had a conversation with a resident today who was interested in this program for roofing. I think that would be like a city putting on RFP for a solar installer to do this work, and there could be some cool nonprofits that come out of it, Grid, Sunwork. There's a lot of private companies that could come, so I think we've get a lot of interest, it's just a matter of
Timing,
time
yeah,
and working with our
Timing.
attorneys on all the agreements and.
timing. I would say even if you exclude the roofing, I think part about the timing for solar and batteries.
Me too,
I would
that's why
put
I'm.
that into the second bucket, the second $2.5 million.
What does timing mean? Like
It
it
just,
takes
it
so
takes
long.
time, I mean, yeah, to get, you know, like all the permitting approvals and getting a
Yeah.
contractor lined up and sizing your project and. I mean, I went through it and
Yeah,
it took a long time, now mine did have to have a new roof also, but. You know, I don't know how much of the delay was that, but it's a long lead time, so.
So you're talking about after June of this year, when you talk about the second half.
I just don't know, I mean, I think people, it takes people a long time, I mean, one of my neighbors had it done, and it took him a year and.
Yeah,
it's just unfair.
it took us 8 months.
Yeah, so it's like, if we wanna get that money spent, I just think I agree, this can. Reduce the pushback and the anxiety of people, and it's a great thing to have. I just don't know that we can get it done in that timeframe. At scale, so that's why maybe the
Yeah.
city-owned facilities, if they truly are gonna take a lot of therms out of. Of the use, and we control those resources.
So electrifying the Bellhaven Development Center is 10 to 20 times the cost of a home. Do we think that that building is using 10 to 20 times the amount of gas as a home?
No. On the other hand, I mean, if it's some, I mean, that one in particular, it's not like it's somebody. It's a space that is visible in the community.
No,
So
I
there's a
definitely
mon-
see the
there's a
value
mon-
in that. I was just curious from an emissions reduction, how it
Yeah.
compares to a home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but sorry, just finish, but there's a multiplier effect here, right? So
Yeah.
if part of our challenge is that we are not getting. If we're not getting people in the community to buy into the notion of electrifying, then the more that we have. Elements that are very visible that are electrified, then the more we're going to be able to get people.
I don't think people are gonna see it. I mean, they're not gonna go, oh, this is, you know, this. This is an electrified, you know. HVAC system or hot water heater. I mean, cooktops still be visible thing, but everything else is like, it's electricity.
Well, I mean, I think that's something we should ask the CRC people
Especially, yeah,
tomorrow, right?
when you hear about people not taking this free home upgrade. It's just like, you know, this is a hard thing to convince people of, and I don't think. Having a community center upgrade is gonna change their,
Yeah.
it's me, it's my house, it's my electricity, it's my reliability, it's my utility bills. I just don't wanna deal with it.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is, if they know who's running the center. And they trust the person who's running the center, and they made a decision to electrify, then you do it. Not because it's a center, but it's because of the person that you know.
But if that's the issue, then I think we need to figure out how to get those in the community who converted residentially to become testimonial.
Right.
Customers and do outreach with them.
Right, I mean, John and I mean, several of us have been at CRC, and that's how it works.
Yeah.
You go there and then you see the leaders of the group of the community, what they are saying, and they say, oh, me too, right? I mean, that's how they got all those resilience kids adopted, because the leaders have started jumping in.
And I think Ori has some data relative to the facilities that might make sense to share now.
Great. Yeah, so well, as it relates to therms, I was eligible for Burgess Pool, just because that was the last one that you mentioned. It's for the last 3 years been averaging right over 63,000 therms, and so I think there's like some rough estimates that look like 600 therms per year for single family residential, so it is right around 100 homes. But that's, I don't know, someone more qualified, should verify those numbers. The Childhood Development Center, it's a much lower.
Right.
Annual therm usage. The reason that price tag is high, just to kind of reiterate what Rachel was saying, is that this is kind of the high mark for. Replacing the HVAC equipment, so the heating, ventilation and air conditioning. With the idea that we wanted a system that we could do recirculation and smoke filtration, and so. You can't, like, you could electrify the HVAC systems with maybe split heat pumps, and there's like a small filter in those. But as we were thinking through the resiliency lens and kind of more.
Yeah.
Fire seasons and all that, that's why that price tag is so much higher. It's not necessarily a one-to-one relation between like number of homes and the cost or therms in that calculation.
What is the therms on that building?
Therms on that building.
While he's calculating, I just want to say, I love the idea of being able to provide clean air to young people in Bellhaven.
Is it a dimension to this discussion that we look at things that would happen anyway eventually and paid for by the city versus things that are only going to be paid for by this that are unique opportunities?
I think so, yes, and I think the number I just calculated, we might have like a short term and a longer term. So I think we need to spend $1.2 million by June, like in the next 4 months. So that number 1.2 plus the 1,050 for the first half, and then maybe we have some more flexibility in the second half. So that's what I'm beginning to think is like, if we have to spend $1.2 million in the next 4 months, what are we gonna do? And then what's the second half? So I don't know if that's a helpful frame.
Yeah.
Am I getting the
That's
numbers right?
accurate. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I agree with your thinking, other than like, if they weren't gonna replace the pool for another 10 years and we could get it electric now. That's a lot of emissions saved over the next 10 years but I think the pool is expectation that it will be electrified in the next few years.
Yeah, within 5.
So that maybe can, but also it's not gonna hit our super fast $1.25 million. Does any of this hit our super fast $1.25 million? The rebate. Or rebate, one of the few that doesn't do low income.
I mean, combination of some of the program enhancements opening up to 120.
Adding the
Yeah.
marketing, more
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah.
You think we could get, in 4 months, get to $1 million too?
I think so.
do you think any of the city ideas could be done in the next 4 months?
The facility ones,
Mhm.
the Child Development Center. I can,
That's spring of next year. It says here,
like completed.
yeah.
Completed, I think, and we can go back to our team and talk about that. They're working on getting staffing resources to the CIP team to be able to take on more projects. They understand kind of the urgency around the PPA. And this grant fund as well.
What about the SCHIP program?
The SCHIP program I was really excited about until PCE shared that they think it's likely gonna be funded all through the state.
Okay.
So it's, and I was like, well, can we just do it now before the state? Because what if the state ends up
Yeah.
rescinding the program and we've wasted all this time? And they said, they weren't able to mobilize before the state.
On the development center, it's 380 to 680. What was that, like mini split versus ducted system, or
It was
was
the
there
filtration piece.
that 300 grand was just filtration?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like design, the design costs are included in that, but yeah,
Yeah.
for the most part, it's.
So it's more than we,
Put in the upper number so that we
Yeah.
don't overshoot
Yeah.
our.
And that facility last year used 606 therms, so, part of the benefit of.
Same as
getting
at home.
the Heat pump,
Yeah.
water heater in that facility, so dropped it. From like an average of 1,400 for the previous years down to 600. So
What did you all think about, oh, sorry,
I was just saying it's a big cost for 600 therms.
that's why our PCE
Oh, I see.
PE number is so low.
And we do have 22,000 from PCE to support that project.
Which one is it that has that number of therms?
Child development.
Commissioner Headley?
yeah, I was curious what you all thought about Brian Schmidt's comment about electrifying the commercial kitchen here at Ariaga as a way to be like a case study to help maybe other restaurants downtown or other commercial endeavors to, like, would it be worth it to?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still am worried about that, how that doesn't help Bellhaven, but I appreciate that it does help the commercials.
Yeah.
So it might be worth it.
It would be relatively small money so that we could still devote the lion's share to the Bellhaven projects.
And that project has completed engineering. And it was a very costly engineering process. So that one is shovel ready.
Which one?
Ariaga.
So if we split out only the kitchen part of it to pay for with this money,
Oh, we
that
could,
doesn't change.
Well, it's $1.5 million just to electrify the kitchen.
No,
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 no, no, the whole thing.
yeah,
HVAC and.
So that's why I put slash kitchen
Got it.
only. If we carve out the kitchen.
the water heater is
Yeah,
already
yeah.
electric there. So,
Okay.
if we carve out the kitchen, I think, I don't know if you have that estimate at the ready, and I don't know if Teresa fully
It
scopes
wasn't
out
in
the
the
contract.
design, so
Okay,
that would go design and
I mean, I gotta say again, from a greenhouse gas reduction perspective, cooking is not a huge, I mean, from a health it is, but from a cooking and commercial kitchens aren't gonna change what they're doing. In restaurants because of what the Ariaga Center's doing, just not gonna happen. Right?
You're probably right,
So,
but it would help, remove one of their objections. So if we were to do things on the rich code or whatever it is, then you can say, oh,
except
look,
now we can't.
there
use
it
these
is.
codes.
right?
No, we're hoping we can avoid that.
Okay.
I think there is some benefit to doing that, but I think overall, like if we can find a way to spend the money in Bellhaven, I would feel better about that.
Again, it's so hard to tell how to help Bellhaven without knowing why. What
Right.
we have on the paper, it's not working.
Well, it does seem like, and we won't know, but both offering the rebates and also increasing the AMI
Yeah.
threshold, both have the potential to increase uptake.
Yeah, that does.
But what can you do
Unless the
fast?
real blocker is that they are all renters, in which case that may not help. Right, but yeah, no, those will be high in my priority.
well, the rental units can be served by the rebate, so you could say to your landlord, hey, there's this rebate now.
Mhm.
This equipment's
That's true.
old. How
Yeah,
about you
but
get on
Does that
it?
work? Yeah.
It's
Because
I
I
have
remember-
anecdotal.
Us
I
to
know.
persuade
I
someone
can't
to
imagine
persuade
that
yet
they're
somebody else. I don't know.
Going to their landlord.
Yeah,
and saying,
if the landlord is not
I
motivated,
tried,
I'm not
didn't
sure where
work,
that's going to
yeah.
work, right?
Yeah,
I would also offer that increasing the income eligibility would work over the long term, but doesn't necessarily get us that much in the coming 4 months.
It might, because there might be, I mean, there might be people who are ready to go, but made the decision and who are not qualified.
Okay. Can I propose
Because
something?
that's what we're hearing is that the initial part were people who were very convinced. You didn't have to convince them, you only have to make them qualified.
well, so this is interesting, if we're not gonna even present it to the city council till April, so I'm hearing. I mean, the window is closing.
It is closing.
By
I
the
think
time we
need to
make
know.
our recommendation, the window's gonna be closed, so
Right.
I'm not sure we're dancing on the head of a pin here.
So can I share what I'm hearing as
But
what
Yes,
seems to
please.
be a consensus? And maybe we can tentatively put it in the selected column as a yes. Oh, the numbers are in the selected column. Okay, so increasing the AMI to 120%.
Yeah.
Doing something with the matching rebates. I like the idea of doing like a quarterly basis number. Something with the resiliency kits. And then the Bellhaven Child Development Center. So I would love to see like how the numbers look if we did those.
And what is it, the Bellhaven?
Yeah,
Row 10.
okay, and then I guess, and we have the marketing some marketing,
do you
do
want
we
us
need
to
to do like a
sum that?
sum
I do.
situation?
Yeah, we got it up the top.
Oh,
Oh,
Oh.
can you scroll out? There it is.
oh, cool. So it'd be 4.8.
Okay, so that's a little bit higher than we have.
So I guess, are any of these actions? Is there potential for any of them to help us spend the money by?
Yeah, we think this is the most reasonable list. We started with a much dreamier list,
I
which
know, but
had,
I'm just saying.
Well,
even
I
if
think
we're not
if
gonna
the
present to
marketing
City
gets-
council until April,
yeah,
right? And then they approve it. I mean, are any of these gonna actually help us get the money spent by June?
Well, if
Well,
we
I'm kinda
put it on
thinking-
the marketing, and have that queued up ready
Yeah,
to
but
go the
even
day
if
after,
people then
please,
say
then the
yes,
marketing can go.
they're not gonna
to
spend the
Meg, and
money
then
by
we could
June.
get each of the different projects
Right.
lined up.
But is that also a little bit soft? Like, we're talking about June.
it's soft.
Yeah, we just want to get it going
Going,
as
yeah.
quickly as we can so that we can
Okay,
have the greatest chance of getting the second half.
okay.
What about
So-
like
so-
a sort of a
so
stage?
That was my confusion at the beginning. It's like, I thought June was a deadline and I had the same reaction that he had. but it
Spending
sounded like
half of the money
June
by
is
June of
stopped.
this year is a target.
It's a target.
June
It's
of
not a
26
dead-
is
it's
a
not
deadline.
But
Okay,
if we
Yeah,
have
sorry
like
for
a
that.
plan and things, I think they'll feel more comfortable.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Right?
So we do
That,
have
that
to-
was the way I was hearing
Yeah.
it, but it was a deadline, not a
All right,
target.
all right.
No, I've been messaging as a deadline to
What's the issue?
PCE.
Forced
I'm
it.
just
Expire.
Okay.
So,
Action.
so, I
Okay,
mean,
good.
as far as the, MI and the rebate, I think are the numbers. One priority is understand what is blocking
Yeah,
the current adoption, without understanding that those two are.
yeah, if you throw more money at it, and that's not the issue.
Right.
There you go.
I like the list that Commissioner Headley came up with. I was also thinking that we could recommend those as sort of a first step.
Yeah.
And if we don't see a rapid uptake in the next 5 months or 6 months,
Hmm.
then we pivot to like the Burgess Pool, which has the maximum emissions reductions
Yes.
available to
Yeah.
us.
I like that.
I like that too.
But I guess the question is, when, do you know when we would have to pull the trigger on the pool in order to have it complete by summer of next year?
We'll have to go back to our team.
Yeah, because that would kind of be the deadline
Yeah.
to sort of say,
Back up.
if we
from
don't,
there.
if we haven't spent a certain amount of money by August 1st or something, or committed money or whatever, then we spend the rest on the pool.
Well, the
And-
pool
and
work,
to
the prep
clarify-
work on the pool could start in parallel and then be postponed for when the city does it in 5 years if we don't pick it up. So it's no regrets move, but it could be in parallel so that we're ready to pick it up if we have to.
Yeah, and just that
Yeah.
we spend it by summer of 26.
And to clarify on this thing, well, the requirement is things that have been paid. So in the case of the pool, if you pay in installments,
Mhm.
then that has paid. It doesn't have to be completed by
Right.
by
Yeah,
June
yeah.
2026.
But
We
they're
have
gonna
to
do the
have
whole
paid this
project
amount of
at
money
once, right?
by 20,
It would be broken up probably by like design,
right.
Yeah.
and so the
Right.
design will probably cost $500,000.
Hmm.
The construction will be built separately.
Okay.
Design will be $500,000.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, easy.
And we'll probably need like this, we'll definitely need a service upgrade for it, and so it's like a lot of additional cost and coordination with PG.
Ooh. That could be, from a timing perspective, that could be a deal killer.
It could be, it could be slow, the,
Upgrades,
What we-
capacity
yeah.
upgrades
What
can
we
take a
spend-
long time.
yeah, definitely.
Even
So-
just for a single residential upgrade, let alone a commercial upgrade.
Although I'm not sure, would the upgrade hold up the rest of the project?
It did,
I mean, the
Yeah.
building could be done
Fine,
in
yeah.
anticipation of the upgrade.
yeah, and in some cases, they require you to build the project, like for our EV charging project, you would have to, you have to build everything, and then they'll come and build their upgrades. Which does make the engineering friends very uncomfortable, but that's just the way it is.
Do we still want to make a motion?
Do we need to make a motion?
Do we need to make a
Are we
motion?
motioning?
School lunch.
I don't think you need to make a motion.
It's a little bit over the 4.5.
Just to see the,
It was
Sorry.
4.8.
4.8.
There it is.
And that we can mitigate by having like a cap on how many
Oh.
people, we allow to participate in the program enhancements.
Yeah.
Or Brian can go get us more money.
Yeah. So do you feel like you have what you need from us, or would it be clearer if we make a motion?
I don't think I need a motion. I did wanna get clarity on getting that data that the EQC would like for informing future program design. And I'm curious if you think it makes sense when CRC is doing door-to-door outreach to start actually like collecting that feedback,
Yeah,
so it's not kind of anecdotal.
That'd be great.
Okay, and so maybe there's a kind of survey that they have for people who say no, and they can
Yeah.
ask them if you follow up.
definitely.
That would be super helpful.
And then maybe we can see if like Franklin can do that in the assessment part too. Sorry for the acronyms.
Okay. Okay, do we, I guess I just wanna, do we all feel good with that list there? Thank you for sorting it.
Yeah, this is great.
And then naming like the pool, maybe just for purposes of like the pool is the backup plan. If,
And then I'm also hearing that going to council in April might be a little late, so maybe we could forego having Alejandra there and just do it in March.
kind of, I think so, to Jeff's
Okay.
point, we've got to get going on this.
And then to that end, I was gonna say we could come back to the EQC with better projections of emission reductions for each of these measures, but maybe we'll just prepare that for the council meeting then in March.
I'm
that's
certain it
fine.
would change our judgment.
Yeah.
You're certain it would or wouldn't?
I don't think it would change our judgment.
Yeah, same.
But we should provide that data to help them make their
Their
decision.
decision, yeah. I agree.
On the resilience kit, did you already capture the idea of the window HVACs?
What we have in the kids,
I don't think it was in there.
I have it.
No, it did.
Yeah,
Mobile heat pump.
Yeah.
Is like the window heating.
Mobile-
Oh, okay, that's what it meant. Okay, sounds good,
I
perfect.
pulled that price, all the pricing for that out of a Redwood Energy guide.
Yeah,
which is maybe a little outdated.
They have a couple of very good models.
Yeah, I'm on Amazon.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That might help with the procurement piece of it. Okay,
I guess it would, just a little, it would be helpful to know, like, if we opened it up to all of Menlo Park, how many more people are at that 80% AMI?
Mm,
it's really quite small.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suspect.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's, we did
Oh,
the
for
math
80,
a while
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah, and at this point, there's still capacity in PCE's program, so PCE
Yeah.
can serve those
Mm.
folks.
Yeah.
But they haven't started their marketing yet, so let your friends know.
Yeah.
Across Menlo Park,
Okay.
they can sign up.
Okay. Can we take a little break
Yes, definitely.
if we're done with this agenda?
Are we done with this item?
Is the staff have everything they need?
I'm super appreciative of this feedback, yes, and special thank you for the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super
My
helpful.
pleasure.
Thank you, Susanna.
Yeah,
We'll
thank you.
take a
Good idea.
5-minute break.
All right.
Um, Okay, we're coming back from our recess.
Okay, well, welcome back. We are gonna move on to agenda item D3. Review outreach approach for adopting amendments to the building code. And for this item, we'll have another staff presentation.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, members of the commission. As Lord Paz, I'm here to talk to you this evening about our outreach plans for the 2025 building code local amendments. So, okay, next slide, thank you. So we'll do a quick overview of our most recent community building commission update. And then we'll dive into just a little bit of background on building codes generally, the local amendment process, and then the bulk of the conversation and where we really want input this evening is on our proposed outreach plan for that local process. So to dive into our emissions inventory a little bit, you can see on the screen on the left is data from the 2021 greenhouse gas inventory. And then on the right is 2023. Again, this is the pie for the community-wide emissions, and the specific call out for the tonnage is just for the building energy piece of that pie. So in 2021, that was right around 121,000 metric tons CO2 from building energy, so that's natural gas and stationary sources. And then in 2023, it was slightly reduced to 119,624 metric tons CO2. And again, that's from building energy. And again, that's the bulk of that is natural gas use in buildings for your space conditioning, water heater.
Okay, so this is residential, commercial, and city
Correct.
all.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and one caveat is that in 2023, there are some privacy restrictions, so the PG&E is not able to share natural gas data for non-residential users if there's not enough users to kind of to maintain the privacy. So we had to infer the non-residential usage from 2021. So there's additional information in our actual greenhouse gas inventory, and this was something that a number of jurisdictions ran into in San Mateo County. And the consultants who prepared the inventory walked us through the methodology of how to apply that.
So I'm sorry, it's the non-residential or the residential?
Non-residential is
So commercial.
correct, yeah. And we can go to the
Just a quick question, the water, I'm surprised it's so trivial you removed it.
not removed, it's just removed from the legend because of the formatting.
Because it's so teeny tiny, that's surprising.
PowerPoint certainly thought that it was or intended to include it. But the highlight here is that kind of the why of why we continue to look at modifications to the building code that will encourage and promote electrification is because when we look at our community inventory, natural gas use in buildings remains that second greatest source of community emissions, and a great opportunity to improve the air quality in the buildings and in the community more broadly, and then also address the climate crisis.
And so the biggest one is on-road transportation.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thanks. And so when we talk about the building code, it's a little bit more complicated than just one code, but essentially it's a book of technically 13 parts that govern all buildings within the state. So anyone who wants to build something needs to follow these standards. The code is the minimum that is legally required. So that a building will be safe and aligned with state goals. But again, it's the minimum for kind of not going to jail for building a thing. And so within the 13 parts, the one that we talk a lot about is the energy code, part 6. And then part 11, which is the green building code, also known as Cal Green. And then all parts of the California Building Standards Code are updated on a triannual basis. So every 3 years, the state publishes an updated code. The ones we've talked a lot about were from 2019. We also had an update in 2022, and we're looking at changes to align with the 2025 code cycle. Regardless of any city action, the code becomes state law beginning January 1st of 2026. And there's no actual requirement for a local jurisdiction to adopt the building standards code. It becomes state law automatically. We're only required to adopt it if we want to make local amendments to that. So there's a little nuance there, but we can go to the next slide. And a good segue into, we are allowed to make local amendments to the building standards code to achieve local goals. There are requirements, though. They have to be more stringent than state code. They need to have a cost effectiveness study. And that's only for the energy code. And then they must be adopted, and the whole code needs to be adopted by the city council. And then any local amendments to the energy code or items governed by the Energy Commission need to be approved by the California Energy Commission, the CEC. So as we look at the overall timing for this, it is a large lift, especially on our building division staff. So we typically will only be talking about a couple of different measures within different parts, but they're looking at updating all 13 parts of the building code. So there's a lot of learning that happens. There's a lot of interpretation, development of materials there. So anytime that we can align our efforts to adopt local amendments that achieve our sustainability goals with the alignment with the new code is ideal, because it essentially we would need to just repeat this entire process. So we did recently just complete a small local amendment for pre-wiring requirements, and that was a good win that'll carry us through to the end of the year. But we had to communicate and educate everybody on those changes, and so there's really a huge advantage to aligning with the new code, both for staff understanding and implementing these requirements, and also for the building community, because it's a huge lift for builders, designers, and all folks in that ecosystem.
So when you ask about the new code, you mean the 2025?
Correct.
And when you're talking, that means that the reach, the only way to make that work is the reach is on 2024.
We'll get into kind of the specifics of local amendments and which one and the process and kind of all of the timing, but what we're talking about is, let's try to, as much as possible, align our local amendment process so that when the new code becomes effective on January 1st, 2026, ideally our local amendments will have already been drafted, vetted, approved by city council, and ready to be implemented with the base code.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I meant 2025, but you'll explain it to us
Yeah.
later. Okay.
Yes, and then, so just like the final piece is that, we're not going at this alone. There's a lot of great work that's being done by our partners. PC, Peninsula Clean Energy, is doing a lot of analysis with their consultants. PRC, whose acronym I don't know, and they develop model codes, and they look at both the cost effectiveness of those. However, there's some timing constraints related to those that we'll talk about as well. So yeah, we do have some support in adopting local amendments.
So quick question. So for the builders, do they look at the state code and then just the local amendments? Or do our local codes have to be updated to reflect the state code?
So all of the, and maybe if you go to the next slide.
So it's just a lag. There we go.
Yeah, okay, great. So the base code, the 2025 base code is published by the state July 1st.
Mhm.
And then that essentially becomes what everyone gets trained on statewide. And it becomes a basis for kind of where we make local amendments.
Right, so we make amendments, so
To
from
the
the
base.
builder's perspective,
Yeah.
they have to meet state codes first.
Yes,
And then any local amendments, so we don't have to update all of our codes to match state codes every 3 years.
We
Our
do it
base
by-
codes,
we do, yeah. Our
But
code is.
we do it by
updated.
reference, right? We don't have to spell out every change in 2025. We, don't we
So
go by
we-
reference?
We buy a set of 13 books.
yeah,
And wherever we make local amendments. We
Yeah.
change out
Yeah,
the
just
pages,
local
and then
amendments.
in our municipal code. It is updated with the 2025 base code, so it's like. That applies everywhere, and then anything that we make as specific changes. Has to be identified and like strike through.
but do we have
underline.
to update a bunch of documents every 3 years for the whole code or just our amendments?
We don't have to make individual changes. But because we always make local amendments, we adopt the base code.
Right.
And then we identify the specific changes that we have
Okay.
made,
Yeah, we-
but as part of that process,
Okay,
the whole code changes. For the most part, like there's some pieces that stay the same, but
And
the whole.
Do I remember correctly that the big picture of the 2025 is already nailed down? So to a large degree, even though base code is passed by the state in July, 2025 is already done.
That's true, especially looking at the energy code. So the energy code pieces were published at the end of the year, and there's some final things that are coming out in the next few weeks about the energy code portions, because those are typically the most kind of contentious, yeah, ambitious.
Just from a process standpoint, would you prefer clarifying questions all at the end or as you present?
I'm flexible, but I will defer to the.
Okay, as long as you're okay with that.
Yes, yeah.
thank you.
So as we look at the general process, kind of absent of the kind of specific outreach and development of the proposed code. We're looking at moving as quickly as possible to align again with the publish of the 2025 base code so that it can become effective in January of 2026. And then we'll be diving into kind of the specific components of that as we go. So again, the focus this evening is on our outreach strategy and kind of the different points and input that we're going to be deploying. And so as we look at the different strategies available to us, we're looking at in-person events, so outreach events like the Bellhaven Community or Bellhaven Resource Fair, which is at the end of March, the Love Our Earth Festival, which is at the end of April. There would be EQC meeting to review the outline of proposed amendments, and then EQC meeting to review the actual code language, the city council study session. And then down the line, also the city council would need to adopt it at 2 readings, adopt the ordinance. Throughout the whole process, we plan to develop and reach out to a contact list. And so using, similar to what we did for the pre-wiring, using contacts from our permit database to reach out to those folks for their input, updating our websites, hosting an online workshop to really dive into some of these and do some of the education around the outline of the different options that we're looking at. And then leveraging our social media and digest posts as all kind of recurring digital outreach, with the exception of the online workshop. So these would be things that we would do and then continue to grow that contact list ahead of the different meetings and milestones. Other things that we're looking at is kind of partnering with our different community-based organizations to try to get information into their newsletters, promotion of different events. Like the resource fair, like the Love Our Earth Festival, EQC meetings, things like that. And certainly our webinar. Waste bill inserts for ecology. And then posting information on signage boards and really trying to drive people to our web pages. And
What are digest posts?
oh, the city digest is a newsletter that is published on a weekly basis by our public engagement manager. And so if you have not subscribed, it's a lovely look at different events that are happening, project updates, opportunities to engage with the.
People just sign up for that on the city's website?
Yes. And so, again, as we look through kind of like a high level overview of the plan is to survey the community. Initially, looking for some information about, what are some of the constraints that people have experienced related to electrification? What are the things that could help them get more excited about it? What are challenges that they're seeing? Kind of that initial high level information that we then would factor into our outline of potential local amendment options. So initially, we would be working kind of in that outline framework to vet these ideas, make sure that as we talk to implementers and internal and external experts, as well as the city attorney, we understand, what is a feasible potential option, and then we would share those, solicit feedback as we go through that process. And then evaluate all of that and develop and draft the actual local amendment ordinance. So that's the specific language, specific exceptions, all of the specifics that consider input on kind of the high level through the outline phase. And then we would be presenting that detailed code language at public meetings. So once to the EQC for a recommendation to city council, and then it would go to the city council for the two readings that would be needed for approval. Next slide, please. So taking a look at spring and a hint of summer there, the tentative plan. We're here tonight. Thank you, everyone. And then looking next, our next touch point would be, I guess it's not shown here, but the development of that community survey to be released probably in early March. And then the next is the Bellhaven Resource Fair, which I believe is March 29th. So tabling at that event, having a QR code opportunity to drive people to complete the survey, weigh in on the different types of proposed local amendments that we would be considering. And then also access educational materials on updated websites. And then the next is returning to the EQC with an outline of the proposed code options at the April meeting, April 16th. We would then have an in-person event at the Love Our Earth Festival, which is April 26th. Again, with the idea to share the information about the code options and solicit that input. And then host a code webinar to, again, really dive into the education and information about the outlined options and solicit input. And then all of that kind of building toward a city council study session at the end of May. To kind of get clear direction from the city council as to what they want to see in the development of the specific code language. So as we move into the summer, again, the state will publish the base code July 1st. During those months, right, we'll be taking the direction from city council as well as some of the input that we had heard throughout the engagement up until that point, and workshopping that to kind of develop the implementation materials. And then we would come back to the EQC in August. With the proposed code language for review. And then try to get on a city council meeting in September. And then if you go to the next slide, please. With the thought that the adoption, it's showing 2 arrows there, but the adoption would happen over two meetings, and that might be either in early or mid-October. And all of that is because there's a couple of different procedural things that happen with the adoption of an ordinance. And this ordinance in particular. So for this ordinance in particular, any changes that we make that require CEC or California Energy Commission approval would need to go and be approved by them at a regular business meeting. With enough time for them to weigh in. And so we really want to get that done as soon as possible. And then there's a 30-day wait after the adoption of any ordinance to allow for the opportunity for someone to appeal if they wanted to. And so as we kind of stack those, we can have city council approval of the ordinance and then take the item to the CC business meeting and have those 2 wait periods overlap. Yes.
What amendments would require CEC approval?
So it's, I think maybe more of an art, but you can think of it as anything that's related to energy. They potentially will want to see. And so as we think about the different options, that's one of the things that we need to consider is it going to trigger a cost effectiveness study? Has there already been a cost effectiveness study that we could leverage? Because if the answer is yes and no, then it significantly affects the cost to evaluate those options and then the cost to develop and implement, or the time to develop. That would almost certainly be off of our desired track to align with the 2025 code, which becomes effective on January 1st, 2026. So I think that's okay. I was just gonna again say that the plan is to do that recurring digital outreach ahead of each of these milestones and touch points. The hope being that our contact list and engagement snowballs as we go. So then we get a lot of excited folks who have been engaged through the process, able to attend the final meetings and share their ideally support. Now we can go to the next slide. So really the conversation this evening and what we're looking for as far as input. Are there any questions about the proposed outreach plan? Are there additional strategies that we should consider related to outreach? Any changes that we should consider? So changing the order, the timing, the strategies, anything related to that? Again, all around the outreach plan. Anything else that we maybe haven't mentioned that you'd like to discuss? And then what would be really helpful is to kind of drill into the survey and walk away with some recommendations on the initial survey questions for the community. Anything that the commission feels important to include. So with that, I can turn it to y'all if there's any other or additional clarifying questions. Happy to answer those.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any additional clarifying questions? Commissioner Pellegrini,
I have a basic one. If you go to the very beginning, where it says in alignment with the new code. What does in alignment with mean?
At the same time,
Oh, sequential alignment.
It says
not-
timely.
yes.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
wondering, did you, I didn't catch the part where you were talking about what key objectives the city might be looking to achieve with any code additions. What specific areas would the new code cover?
Yeah, so part of the work that we're doing right now, kind of in the behind the scenes is a detailed analysis of the base code areas that are available. So I guess to answer the question succinctly, we have not yet established
Hmm.
those. And so part of what we're looking for input from the community is just that, right? So if there are priorities that folks want to really make sure that we address. So I think a lot of what we've heard through other processes is there's a lot of concern around cost. So, you know, as we're thinking about this, what are the opportunities for those co-benefits between, you know, ideally electrification, but also, you know, how can we improve the envelope? How can we improve the efficiency of these buildings, especially existing buildings, so that the bills go down and they stay lower? And so things like that, those are definitely where we want to kind of get that initial input, but we haven't established that yet.
Thanks.
Yep.
It is very useful, thank you.
Any other clarifying questions? Mike said, okay.
Well, I would just say that the last point on your bullet point of the feedback really is, in my perspective, contextual upon what are the topics that you're expecting to get input and feedback on. Because the communication strategy should be focused on, well, who's gonna be impacted?
Yes.
Because what we've heard, you know, with the housing element, for example, the downtown business community was not engaged.
Right.
And it got approved, and then after the fact, like, the business community comes in and gets all worked up. If we had thought about that in advance and, you know, knew that they weren't gonna be engaged, I think we would have changed our communication approach. And so I would, like, who's gonna be impacted, should it impact how we communicate.
Yeah, so I agree, and just waiting for the discussion part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely.
So that, yeah. Initial survey questions, I think, will help us to evaluate or recommend what the communication strategy should be. So is there a draft survey that we're going to look at today or not?
No, we have some general ideas, but we don't have the actual draft survey questions available for review just yet.
Can you share what the themes are?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I think the themes are going to be around what are the concerns, considerations, points of excitement related to electrification, as a way to understand kind of, you know, what are people's initial responses. I think one thing, again, trying to solidify our understanding of utility bills as a priority and a kind of major concern. And then as we look at the different viable options, sharing some initial information around that and kind of first responses. So without going into too much detail, which is kind of the hard part of, you know, it could be, you know, have you heard of a building performance standard? Are you familiar with any of this? What would be the, you know, most effective educational material, or how do you like to receive information? Did you have others? I feel like we had a few, but I don't have.
I think a couple basic starters, like do you worry about the size of your electric bill? Do you think that insulating buildings is, I don't really know.
Yeah.
It's something kind
Yeah.
of
I
warm
think
up.
we need a little
I think
bit
we can
of
get that
discussion.
Discussion, yeah, but
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought we were.
Do you have another clarifying question?
No, I mean, I wanted to say, are we done with clarifying?
Let's clarify that.
We are.
I think one piece too from the survey is asking folks what ideas they have. When we did the pre-wiring, I was overwhelmed with how many responses we got from our building community on like,
Right.
hey, why would you do it this way? Why don't you try this? Or I actually think this would be really effective in the field, because I see a lot of projects with this configuration. So the comments we got weren't negative. They were actually like new ideas. And so I think the audience for the survey, we're thinking about our Acela contacts, our permit contacts, which Ori mentioned. So those are our contractors, our architects, our builders. And then he also mentioned that we're focused on really existing buildings, because the state code for new construction has caught up to electrification with heat pumps as like a baseline minimum. And so we're thinking about what we can do with existing buildings, and so that impacts a much wider net than when we've done reach codes in the past, or sorry, local amendments in the past. So we're looking at engaging homeowners, commercial property owners, multifamily property owners primarily.
Cool.
Yes, so is this a new strategy, this sort of stakeholder engagement for local amendments? Because I wasn't around the last cycle.
I wasn't involved with the last cycle as much, and kind of got paused, but it's building on things that we have done before, and I think we have some kind of newer tools and experience from some of the outreach that we've been doing for upgrade program and other things, so certainly something that we have done, but I don't know if it's been put together in a slide.
I think we want to show up to city council with like a community coalition of diverse voices saying this is what we think is the best option.
This was sort of touched on, but in the presentation, it said that cost effectiveness is only required for the energy code. So does that mean Cal Green local amendments don't have to have a cost effectiveness unless they touch on energy?
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you say email permit applicants, is that mostly builders and contractors that are gonna get those emails? Or, I mean, a homeowner that's already built a home may not have that much to say about local amendments, but I'm just, who is the target audience when you email permit application folks?
Primarily the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's the online workshop, is that the same thing as the code webinar? So that's
Yeah.
like planned for May?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are my clarifying questions I have. Thank you. Any others?
Are we clarifying or are we in
We're-
discussion?
We're finishing up clarifying.
Just to clarify.
Just to clarify.
Okay, so it sounds like we don't have clarifying questions. Ms. Launder, do we have any public comment on this item?
Sure, let's open up public comment. If you are in the room and you have a public comment card, we can get that from you. And if you're online, you can raise your hand. And if you're calling in, you can press *9. We do have a public comment in the room. Just one?
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll start with you, Mr. Schmidt.
just very briefly, we have the Menlo Park is the Bayfront Commercial District with I think it's a net zero policy to it. But I was thinking, I don't know what type of outreach was done in the process of doing that, but that going back to those files and using that might be helpful in this outreach process. That's it.
Thank you for your comment.
I don't understand your comment. Does anybody else? Do you know what that means?
Yeah, maybe after we close public comment, we
Okay,
can,
great.
yeah.
Thank you.
And then I see one additional hand in the room.
Yeah, just a 2-second thing as well. This is a good one to get on the March 22nd priority list. And if there's a spokesperson who can speak about, make sure it doesn't get lost, given how, I'm not sure if I saw a box in the race chart that lists that, but that's gonna be your first shot across the bow of city council to say, like, this is probably number one for climate. I mean, think about the messaging, but I feel like that's important.
About spending the money was the number one priority.
Well, yeah, so that's one of the two.
Yeah.
Good.
And we can close public comment. There's no hands online. Thank you.
Thank you. I can open up for discussion. Commissioner Headley.
I thought this was really well laid out, so excellent work. And I just had, well, I have two ideas, actually. The first is if we want input generally from the community, I'm wondering if we can use the priority setting survey that's already gone out to the community to read through that with an eye toward how might this impact building codes. Because most people are not going to say we need to update our building codes, but they're going to complain about other things. So we might get a sense for where people are at from how they respond. And the second piece is I would love to see us host 2 in-person workshops when we're getting feedback on the code options, one in West Menlo Park and one in Bellhaven, and that one should be translated into Spanish as well as in English. And other than that, I think the overall plan looks really great.
You. Commissioner Hill.
I would like to emphasize the remarks that Commissioner Headley said about how well organized and pulled together this is. Thank you for your hard work on behalf of the city. And the building codes for existing building owners could risk being widely misunderstood. This is a more general thought than an outreach thought. That the city will require everybody to go back, rip out their walls and put in wiring. It's a preposterous thing, but so it's just a watch out of somehow testing the messaging in the survey to encompass that possible any kind of wild misunderstanding.
Yeah, that seems
That's helpful.
important.
I'm just wondering, how we have dealt with this in the past, because people don't want to be regulated, right? So developers, contractors, architects can tell you what you can do to reduce your environmental footprint, reduce your utility costs, what all the potential benefits are, and individual business owners and homeowners can make an economic decision to say, I'm willing to do this because the payback is 5 years, or I think it's the right thing to do for the environment.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody invites more regulation. And I just don't know how we message what's the benefit to any business owner or homeowner for additional regulation. So I think it's a messaging strategy that we really need to get a hold of and figure out how are we going to get, you talked about people who are excited about, these new local
amendments.
code amendments. It's like, who wants a root canal, right? I'd be really, I'm in a quandary because I think, even something as benign as leaf blowers, right? There's a lot of people who thought, yeah, great, homeowners is like, great, I'd love to get rid of those noisy gas leaf blowers, but even that, there are people like him, don't tell me what I can use or what my gardener can use. So I just wonder how we're gonna identify those areas that are gonna have widespread support to add additional regulation that may generate additional cost or constraints on what people can do, especially in our current political environment. So I'm just raising the yellow flag saying I'm concerned. I think we should absolutely do it.
Yeah.
And if we can find those areas where we get, enough broad support, we should push forward, but I think it's gonna be a hard push.
Well, I don't, may I just
Yeah.
pull at the root canal for a second?
Yeah.
Right, like, so nobody wants a root canal, but why do people get root canals? Right, like
Right, two's falling in.
or it's like,
You're in pain.
it's,
Yeah,
you're in a lot of pain, and if you look beyond the point of going to the dentist. For
But
the
it's an
oral surgeon,
individual decision. I'm deciding to get a root canal. As opposed to you need to go get a root canal.
Yeah,
Right? So
Except your tooth problem
Yes.
in this situation also impacts me.
so maybe if we
Okay,
if we revert, because we were talking a little bit
Yeah.
earlier about kind of the transition of kind of the social ideas about smoking, right? So it went from like,
Yeah.
how dare you tell me that I can't smoke inside, to like now if somebody
dare you
lit a
smoke?
cigarette inside,
yeah.
everybody would turn, and so yeah, how do we, because it is, I mean, air quality is kind of the same.
Yeah.
We're all in the same room.
And I was just listening to a report that when the smoking campaign turned a corner was when the signs came out about secondhand smoke.
Mm,
It was when it was impacting other people, everyone.
Now it's.
Good point.
So,
So
yeah. I
what's our
wonder-
secondhand smoke
It's
equivalent?
gotta be something
message?
about
Yeah,
the city
that's a
has a
great-
greenhouse gas goal
Or
or
healthy air,
Healthy
that
air.
really gets
healthy
people.
air. Yeah.
Going back to that idea, does it seem then too premature to survey folks in kind of a more, I don't know, nebulous way? Does it make more sense to come to them with outlines of things that advocates and internal and external experts think are the best paths forward and kind of get their reactions on those? Like,
That's what I would like with the in-person workshops, like educating people about the situation, the climate situation, and the options that are available, and then getting their feedback. So a dedicated workshop online to in person would be great. I feel like I kind of had a similar question that we were kind of raising around the survey, like what would be in this general survey at the beginning? It's hard for me to know what that would be, which is why I think maybe going into the priorities feedback
Mhm.
that everyone is contributing anyway might give us a better handle on where people are at.
Unless we come at it without being in the context of the code, but the more general information gathering such as the second largest emitter of greenhouse gases in our city is buildings. What do you think of that? What do you think would fix that? And maybe people might suggest a little light regulation.
Interesting.
Commissioner Bradley.
So I mean, one of my basic questions, I think is a bit related to several of these ones, is who's the audience for this effort? And if, I think that's back to the question that Commissioner Kissel said about contractors not wanting to be told what to do. And the second-hand smoke, I think that it might be useful to educate the general public,
Mhm.
not just the contractors. I mean, the contractors have to be a part of this, but
Yeah.
the general public too, right? Because we, I mean, as a home buyer, for example, I'm getting benefits today for new construction of things that are in the code from 2022.
Yeah.
Right, for example, the 2022 code says battery ready
Right. all of the wires.
new construction.
Yeah.
That means that if I want to install a new battery, it's much cheaper for me, right? The contractor didn't put it there because
Yeah.
he wanted to put it there,
Right.
right? And I think that there is a general ignorance about the benefits that the new code has provided.
Yeah.
Right, so I think if we want to add new code, we have to get buy-in from the people who are gonna get benefited from that,
Yeah.
and those are not going to be the contractors.
I want to add to that. My experience when I remodeled my home, I wanted my contractor who I loved, but I wanted him to have answers to all my green ideas, and this is like 20 years ago. And he just didn't have any, so I think it needs to come from another place, you know, when you're doing your work and you're used to doing it a certain way, you just
Mhm.
kind of want to.
Right.
You're gonna do it the easiest, fastest way when you have so many other things. So I think our codes are essential. To continue to push the bar for everyone's benefit.
That sounds like a marvelous avenue where it could be couched to the residents of Menlo Park as requiring a certain level of education or expertise among the contractors that you would hire. So that they have answers to your green questions.
Yeah. I like your electric relationship.
Thank you.
Oh,
My words just be wrong.
So is the current, you kind of hinted at that, the direction is to focus on existing buildings?
That's
Existing
correct.
construction.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
seems to be the new direction for the new cycle of
Mhm.
the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have
Question
you,
about.
do you have any other ballpark ideas there, just to help us focus a bit more, like, energy labels, for example? Are you thinking about that?
We're open to exploring, options. I think for myself, a big focus is kind of understanding where there are opportunities for envelope improvements and what is the threshold that makes sense to try to incorporate some, of the passive house construction or the best practices from some of the
Yeah.
more advanced building. Things like living building challenge, but again, focusing on specific measures that would be. We would be able to incorporate into the code that would then result in, again, for existing buildings, like what's going to result in a reduced energy bill for somebody, regardless of how it's powered, but ideally
Like a
with
big
the
bill for your
electric
Yeah.
rewiring, then
Yeah.
you kind of make that make sense.
Did you listen? How, did you hear the wrap up of the CEC 2025 presentation? They kind of hinted at some. I mean, energy labels showed up in the.
Mm,
Anyhow, I mean, I can send you some pointers.
yeah,
there.
definitely.
I mean, that's a big kind of work, but it's,
Do you mean energy labeling at point of sale or at renovation?
yeah, they had a presentation from the Dutch people, because in Europe, that's everywhere. I mean, I'll send you.
Yeah.
I want to write a blog post about this one, right? But if you go to any real estate place in Barcelona or in Paris, every ad has two energy labels.
A property for
For
sale.
every
ad.
property for sale has two things. One is how clean they are, and the other one is how expensive they are to be heated.
Oh, that's
And
very
that's required.
interesting.
That's
Please do share.
Mhm.
And I mean, the commissioner was talking about eventually getting there. I mean, it's a big journey to get there, but that's a big.
How expensive it is to heat? That's an easy data point to add to.
I know,
A
I
real
know,
estate
I
ad.
know.
How clean it is. Yes, we'd have to.
But I think it's more about insulation. I think the two numbers. I mean, I actually, I'll
Oh,
send you a
that
pointer to it.
envelope measurement
one,
that
right,
you,
right.
yeah, oh, okay, yeah.
But part of it was whether it was electrified already or not, and the other one was what's your cost, your bottom line cost. So when you're buying something, you know those two things. One is what's the footprint on your wallet, and then what's the footprint on the planet. And those things are there.
Yeah.
And it's a very clear number, and right now it's just labels. The goal at some point is to force everybody to get into the nice label. But
Yeah.
at this point,
Hopefully,
A
the market
European-
will force that. Right, I mean, consumers are gonna wanna buy.
Yeah.
Question, I'm trying to remember, what did we ultimately decide about heat pump hot water heaters? Is that in the code now that if you are gonna replace electric hot water heater today, you have to replace it with it?
Not. So for which building type, like new construction?
No,
Okay,
because we're talking about existing buildings.
yeah,
Right, so your hot water heater is,
we'll need to see, but essentially we can't require only electric,
cannot.
cannot.
but we can require performance.
Yes, as long as the performance is not,
Why can't,
not allowing.
why can't we require it? What was the?
Yeah, the
It's
Berkeley
the
ruling.
Berkeley.
Berkeley
the
Right.
Berkeley-
But then we have the Bachman ruling coming in. So it's not a city regulation, but a regional, which will force that issue, right? No.
We'll see.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yes, it will, though, I'm not optimistic that people won't find their gas water heaters elsewhere, and
Hmm,
the enforcement is,
Mm,
hard to do.
yeah.
mm.
And a lot of those, types of installs go unpermitted.
Mm.
Which is another kind of lever we're thinking about with these codes, is not making them so stringent that people are avoiding the permit counter.
Would
Yeah.
someone prefer gas, water? Oh, cheaper.
It's easy.
Oh,
So the guy
yeah,
has on
yeah,
the truck.
Tractor tells them.
What the
Yeah.
gas has
Well,
on
that's, the reason I was thinking about that is, I don't know who made the point about how do we get contractors and designers and architects to think about these things? They don't. If you got a gas hot water heater, the easiest thing is just put in another gas hot water heater, heat pump, what I don't know what to do with a heat pump hot
Yeah.
water heater.
Yeah,
So how do you
Yeah.
jumpstart that process? What's the forcing function to start getting people to migrate? And that to me seems like one that would be a good local code amendment.
but I think that in addition to that one, I think is the homeowners, are the ones who are pushing the contractor to actually do. And when we installed our heat pump system in 2018, we had to chase down a contractor who knew it, and there was almost nobody.
Mhm.
I don't know if I have a lot more to add, but I appreciate all the comments from our fellow commissioners. I really like Commissioner Headley's idea of doing the webinars prior to the survey. And I think the webinar, more than just like going through the options, is also just sort of a education for the community and letting them know why we're considering these things, and we have a climate action plan. Why do we have a climate action plan? Because there's a climate situation, and we've had the 10 hottest years on record in the last 10 years, and that's contributing to these extreme weather events, which are contributing to fires, which ultimately are costing us money.
Yeah.
Our insurance rates are going up. Cost of living is going up, so just sort of. Whatever, if that's even necessary in today's day, I don't.
No,
I
it
mean,
totally
It
is.
is absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, so just sort of level setting there, and then when we present these different options to the community on different codes, help trying to at least quantify what are the associated greenhouse gas emissions with this code, and what are the co-benefits that we will which were touched on earlier, just the air quality. And so like specifically to the AC to heat pump potential of a local amendment, that ultimately will save people a lot of money when the air district rules go into effect. They won't have to buy a new heater. They already have one when they got their two-way air conditioning system. So just making sure that we quantify those cost savings down the road that people will experience. And thinking also a little bit about, like, I think these codes are absolutely necessary, but when we talk about them, talk about the co-benefits and the community benefits, but also thinking about codes that offer more carrots, that like, if you do this, you can, like Sunnyvale, for example, has, if you build all electric, you get an additional FAR to your development, so you can build a bigger building. So thinking about different ways that these codes can offer incentives for people to do the right thing, might help as well.
Although a bigger building sort of defeats, goes in the other
But-
direction of climate.
Well, whatever the carrot is.
Well,
but-
not if
whatever
it's
the
net
correct-
zero or, energy efficient building.
Embodied.
It's a bigger building on an all electric building, I think is better than a smaller mixed fuel building.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are just some of the thoughts that I had, and yeah, I appreciate the discussion.
Did Sunnyvale adopt that already?
Yeah, I think it's been in effect for several years, actually.
Oh,
That's a great idea.
But, and that's just one example. There's other things we can kind of
Create.
think about.
And that's where we can get people's responses when we put out the list. And they're like, hey, my idea's not on there. There's something to add.
So, I don't know how we're doing on time. I think just circling back to the two events. So the reason why we were looking at doing something online is came from the Zelly efforts. So we have had some fairly poorly attended in-person events. But the webinar structure gave us the opportunity to put out the information and then have it be kind of more broadly available and then persistent through the timeline. So I don't know if we could kind of talk a little bit more about the in-person element of that and kind of the criticality of that versus having maybe an additional virtual event.
Yeah, let's see. I like the idea of the virtual event that can be recorded and shared. I would not substitute that out, so I assume that would continue. What I've learned from my outreach experience around electrification is that it's easier for the folks in Bellhaven to learn about stuff in person.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it may be, like, they're just not as much on technology as much as West Menlo were.
Yeah.
So if we only had space for one in-person workshop, I would say have it at the Bellhaven Community Center. Don't do one in West Menlo, assume that they can get over to Bellhaven or do it online.
Yeah, and I'll also add, if there is an in-person Bellhaven event, that the ability to get a larger turnout could hinge upon like a meal being included or a stipend.
Stipend, yeah, yeah,
If there's a budget for that.
second both of those.
Have you done childcare in the past?
I think, I know it's been discussed, but I don't know, I don't recall going, we had one event where there was childcare. That was for a movie event, but no, I don't think I've seen that, but I know that it would be appreciated.
And if kids were welcome, I'm just imagining, like, if it was at the community center, you know, the adults could be in the large room, the kids could be in the library, maybe there's a couple of folks from the child development center that can support that. Yeah, I think that would be huge. Did that answer your question, Ori?
Yeah, that's helpful, and I think, yeah, part of it is that, kind of leveraging networks and outreach and, trying to get folks there, and I know we had been tracking, having information at some of the existing events so that we could kind of get people while they're out and doing fun things. But it's sounding like this would be like in addition to those.
Yeah, and I wonder if we're talking to people while they're out and having fun, if there was a little handout, like, hey, we want to hear more, like, come to this thing in a week or two and give us more of your ideas. We're gonna be serving food. We'll have childcare. You can have $25 if you come to this thing and give your input.
You can get your resiliency kit.
Oh, you can get your resiliency kit, nice. Yeah, like those are great carrots.
Okay, and then I think we talked about this survey is something coming after those events, so,
I think you get a better feedback that way, a more educated response.
Yeah.
More informed.
okay.
And just back to the original question about the audience. Despite the comments about also reaching the public, the main audience is the contractor community, correct?
I think we're open to hearing kind of input or feedback on that. I think thus far this evening, the input that I've gotten is to focus on like residents as much as possible. I think where we want to focus on the contractors is on kind of the like additional ideas, and then engagement to see, as we identify specific measures, do they understand them? Are there opportunities that we're missing?
My initial reaction is that the two communities are a bit different, and that the
Yeah.
tools that they would use to affect the responses in both communities are different.
So it sounds like for the resident side of things, it's more education on the why behind the state of the kind of climate crisis, the opportunity with
And
the
the benefits.
and the benefits, all of
Yeah,
the
benefit.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily climate. I mean, I think you can.
Climate, health. Health is another really.
Money, I mean,
Money,
savings,
yeah.
savings. I mean, anything that makes it more receptive later to hear, oh, there is a new change coming and it's going to benefit me. And that's why I'm going to ask. And I think that Bill Haven resident might be different than West Mandel.
Mhm.
But for the contractors, I think it's a different.
Yeah, kind of, this is what we need to do. So kind of you can be
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
the solution, share your ideas,
Yeah, and maybe why this is going to save you money in the long term because,
or
or
make you
whatever.
more money.
Or maybe more money.
I have one more thought about this survey. It seems like an opportunity to also educate. So I just want to put that out there. I think if we just ask a bunch of open-ended questions, it's not going to be as effective. So I'm imagining like, hey, here's some information about X, and then ask like 3 different questions, something like that.
Mm.
I wouldn't just ask questions without providing context and education at any point in the process.
I agree with that.
It's like if we have people's attention, let's make the most of it.
Do we already have or have access to material describing what are the big things in the 2022 code, the 2019 code, 2025 code?
There's some
Things that one can
materials.
reuse for the webinar or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
2022, I think it was the pre-wired of the batteries.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Do we need a motion for this one?
We don't need a motion, and we'll be back to the EQC many a times on this one. I think we learned on the last item, the last amendment.
Great. Request
Oh,
for that.
for the pre-wiring?
I believe we don't have
I have
to,
feedback, but, it's up
we'll talk later.
Okay, then let's, if everyone's okay, move on to item D4, disband impact of plastics on the environment and distributed energy resources ad hoc subcommittees. So the impact of plastics on the environment and distributed energy resources ad hoc subcommittees completed the presentations at the January EQC meeting. This item is to disband the subcommittees. Are there any clarifying questions from the commission? And Ms. Launder, do we have any public comment on this item?
Sure, let's open up public comment. If you'd like to make comment on D4 of disbanding the subcommittees, you could hand me a public comment card, or you could raise your hand on Zoom or press *9. Not seeing any cards in the room or online, so I think we're good.
Great. Is there any discussion or a motion? A motion that we disband those two ad hoc subcommittees.
And I second it.
Oh, I think Phil got there first. Okay. So we have a motion from Vice Chair McKenna and a second from Commissioner Hill to disband the impact of plastics on the environment and distributed energy resources ad hoc subcommittees. We'll do roll call vote. Lee reopen.
Aye.
Kissel.
Aye.
Aye.
Right, the motion passes with 5 ayes.
Right, we'll move on to item D5, consider selecting additional commissioners to Environmental Quality Commission ad hoc subcommittees. The Climate Change, Resilience and Adaptation ad hoc subcommittee is seeking 1 to 2 commissioners to join before a report out at the March EQC meeting. Any interested commissioners can volunteer. This ad hoc subcommittee is focused on providing feedback to staff to implement CAP 6, to develop a climate adaptation plan to protect the community from flooding and sea level rise. Are there any clarifying questions from the EQC before we take public comment? Commissioner Hill.
Is there a list of commissioners who are already sitting on that subcommittee?
That would be 1. Vice Chair McKenna.
Thank you for that service, Vice Chair.
Any other clarifying questions? Do we have any public comment on this item? Ms. Launder?
Sure, let's open up this item for public comment. I'm losing track of what number, but if you'd like to make public comment on adding commissioners to subcommittees, you can get a public comment card and hand it back to me, or you can raise your hand on Zoom or press *9 if you're calling in. I don't see any hands on Zoom or cards in the room, so we can return the meeting to you, Vice Chair.
Right, we'll open it for discussion. Anyone interested? Going once?
Tell us a little bit more about the timing of when this particular subcommittee will be presenting their presentation.
Well, it's scheduled to be presented at the next meeting, so the report will need to be delivered to staff within a couple weeks.
Yes. The next meeting is, sorry, let me pull up my calendar. Is March 19th, and we would need it by Friday, March 7th.
Is there any particular support or partnership you are looking for?
Nope, just opening it up to people that might want to participate in that effort. It's not required. It's an opportunity.
And staff can always collaborate more with the vice chair if it's a smaller committee.
Because those are big questions
They really are.
that involve, I think, a lot of different agencies that are already doing work in this space. So I guess what I'm curious about is, and maybe this is what we discuss next month, like, what else do we need to be doing in addition to the things that are already done?
When do we get our next commissioner?
So the next commissioner will be appointed this month at city council.
Okay.
And then in March, we will have the opportunity to select a chair and potentially a vice chair. And welcome the new member. So we could also hold off on when this item goes to the EQC, we could push it back or.
Yeah, I wonder if it needs more. I don't know, is anybody here volunteering?
There's plenty of other topics we can bring in March, so we could schedule this for a later meeting once we have a complete commission.
Um,
So-
if that, I guess if that's I wasn't sure if the agenda for the rest of the year allowed for that, but if it does, and we still have a robust agenda for March, then it may be best to delay it.
Yeah, we do have a couple other items for March.
We're also missing a commissioner tonight that might have wanted to do it. I don't know.
March, we have a Zelly item as well as selecting chair and vice chair. And we could, we might have potential other items relative to CAP 5. And then for April, there is space on April. We're talking about the climate action plan progress report, but we don't have any other meaty items.
So I think you should give yourself up.
Yeah, I think we probably should delay it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. And we can talk in our check-in
Is
about
that
what,
something we officially can do tonight or?
yeah, the work plan, we can be,
Okay.
we have to take action on. So no need for motion.
Okay, no motion. Let's move on to item E, reports and announcements. We can now hear reports and announcements from staff and commissioners. Commissioners first or staff first?
Why don't we start with commissioners?
Okay, commissioners have any announcements?
SF Climate Week in the end of April. Ready, watch, their schedule's coming out soon, should be exciting. They expect 25,000 attendees.
Wow.
That's in San Francisco.
In and about, it's a loose confederation of many, many events. Some of them might even be here.
Will you share the
I-
details with us when they come out?
Sure.
Maybe for these guys?
I tell you, there's a particularly interesting event happening on Wednesday, April 24th.
Is that the one you're leading?
Yeah, tell us more.
Yeah, what is it?
I will tell you more as the.
As you
day
get
approaches,
closer.
But it's a panel on the environmental impact of cloud computing and what to do.
Oh, very
Ah.
good. That's outstanding. And you're the moderator?
That is my topic.
Nice.
Very good.
That's a good one.
Outstanding.
Okay, that's my job.
Let's see, quick, so, next week, some of us are going to be going to Stanford to the Central Energy System or whatever it's called. And we'll report back. That's a very interesting infrastructure they use to provide energy for all of Stanford, and it uses geothermal and other energies. So I'll probably write something about that since I like to write to capture what I learned. And I'll send you a pointer to it. And last meeting, we talked about the distributed energy resources and some ideas in there. I actually have been doing my homework on time of use tariffs. So those of you who are willing to read what I write, I'm going to post 3 posts on that topic in the next few days. About how you may or not save money by putting a battery in your household.
Thank you, Eduardo.
Yeah.
You do the legwork for all of us.
It's one of those things that I started trying to prove something. I'm not sure whether I prove it, but I certainly learn a lot in the process, so I write it down so that I don't forget. That's it.
Everything.
Stephanie?
Staff.
Thank you for giving me time to think about them. I don't know if we've shared this already with the commission, but the Bellhaven Community Campus is being honored by Sustainable San Mateo County for its electric design. We received an honorable mention. The county new office building beat us out, which is also a tremendous facility. But we're very excited. There are a lot of nominations in the category. And so they'll be honoring us on April 4th at their annual awards dinner. If you're interested in attending that. And there's also a nice write-up on their website about our project. So thanks to Ori for coordinating that application to the program. And then on the 25th for council, we have a home upgrade item staff report. So we'll send that out when it gets published. And then some other great news. 100 new street trees were planted this planting season by Jillian and Joanne and Natividad. Yeah, so I'll share that applause with them. And they're really excited to get the signs going, and I'm working with Lindan on those. And then last, the county is offering their master composting series course. They stopped offering it during the pandemic, and so it's an 8-week course in person that teaches you the fundamentals of composting, and you get a certificate at the end of it. And they give you a free worm bin or a backyard bin. So that's a great opportunity for San Mateo County residents, and I'm happy to share more if you're interested. You might want to share about the facility stuff.
Yeah, one minor edit on the Sustainable San Mateo County, that event is on the April 3rd.
Thank you for looking that up.
Yes. Which is a Thursday. Okay, so yes, exciting update. The next time you come to City Hall and wash your hands, the hot water that comes out of the sink will be coming from one of 3 heat pump water heaters.
Yeah.
And that was part of the city's enrollment in the PG&E funded government K-12 program.
Can we put signs in the bathrooms so they're not water provided by?
We potentially could.
We have.
Everybody stands there saying, what the
Let's
hell's
get-
hot water? Heat pump, what?
Oh, and put a little QR code, like, so they can take a picture.
Yeah,
about.
With their
yeah,
wet
yeah.
hand.
Yeah, that's a
Yes.
good idea.
Yeah.
It's great. So yeah, very, very exciting,
Just like
and
the
that was
trees.
all at no cost to the city, so that's a great program. And then the next project in our applications from the end of last year is the Burgess pool showers. So we should hopefully see that equipment installed.
Oh, so we've already gotten approval for that. We just
Correct,
haven't got-
yeah,
that's great.
yeah, so they're in design, and then they'll be submitting for a building permit shortly. And we were able to kind of get all of the comments through the permitting process for the city hall water heaters. So now they should be able to very quickly change up their plans and application materials.
That's good.
And fly through all of the required information. Other things related kind of to Cap 5. We are bringing on, I think Rachel maybe mentioned this already, but we're bringing on some contract support for project management within the CIP team to help with the EV charging project, which is really exciting. And then they're also looking at working something out with somebody for support for Bellhaven Child Development Center electrification. And then the last update I had was that the police chief and I will be presenting at the California Police Chief Association Tech Summit in Irvine next week on the 27th about the findings from the Tesla patrol pilot.
Cool.
So,
Great.
yeah,
That was kind of a mixed review, wasn't it? I recall, like, there were certain use cases where it worked and others where it didn't.
yeah, I think the biggest thing, and the headline was not what the staff report outlined in detail, but I think the big takeaway was that the outfitting and the space constraints within the vehicles are the big things that we need to be working through as we continue to electrify the fleet and that duty cycle in particular.
Yeah.
But the headlines to me should have been like, electric vehicles can do all patrol, like,
Right.
duty cycle.
Right.
So, but it's Teslas don't work for cops. And so it was a good learning experience of, like, try to make the main thing the main thing.
Right.
But we learned a lot about the vehicles, and we're incorporating that into kind of the continued phases of vehicle replacements. And we should have our Blazer
Mhm.
in about like a couple of weeks. So
Okay.
there were some.
The fitted out one.
So
Or
we'll
just
just get
the-
the Blazer EV, and then actually we're gonna try to let folks drive it for a couple of weeks
Oh.
before we send it out for outfitting.
Okay.
And then it'll be outfitted for patrol operations after that. And then that'll kind of be the next pilot vehicle, as we look at vehicle replacements in one of the upcoming meetings, we'll talk a little bit more about the continued exploration and our pilots for this.
You mentioned an EV charging project, but what one's that?
Yeah, so that one came to the commission, I think, over a year ago now. But it's for fleet and community charging, so infrastructure that would be for the city hall campus, so for the administrative lot between city hall and the gymnastics building. So all of the conduit, some wiring, some chargers installed. But it would be up to 26 level 2s in this lot.
Oh, wow.
And over time, and then the police lot will get one DC fast charger that goes up to 120 kilowatt output, and then some smaller ones as well. And then the city council chamber slot will get additional 26 charging ports for half for fleet and then half for the public. So this is like our long term. This will meet our needs for fleet electrification once this is completed.
Great.
And
Wow.
the way that it's the preliminary scoping and design is so that we are gonna bring in a new dedicated service through a PG&E program. So we won't have to pay for the transformer, and then we'll lay all of the infrastructure so that over time, all we need to do is just install additional chargers.
That's great.
Yeah, yes. So
What are you guys doing about the charging port? Are you doing CCS or NACS or what?
So the details on that we're still working through, but that's where the kind of one of the first things that this new project manager is gonna be working on is the product specifications.
I can highly recommend the new Tesla dual mode that is got. So it's so elegantly integrated, and it only costs like another $150 over just a CCS. So you
Yeah,
get
send us
CCS
the-
and, okay, yeah.
Send us the details. The chargers that we're looking at are primarily Autel chargers.
Primarily what?
Autel,
Auto?
AUTEL. And in particular, because we wanted to kind of stick to one manufacturer, and then they have a lower power DC fast charger that does like a true split. So important for, again, the future police.
Yeah, given that, there's gonna be a lot of legacy CCS and everybody's transitioning to NACS, it seems like having every charger be able to do both is gonna be such a smart move.
Yeah. We welcome
Because
any input on smart
even
moves.
if you do it like 50-50 now, over time, it's gonna shift and it's gonna be all NACS, and then you're gonna have to go replace all the
Yeah.
CCS.
Yeah. It's certainly a challenge. But exciting that we're
Oh, it is,
moving
right.
forward.
It's exciting.
I just want to say I support Commissioner Kissel's idea of sort of advertising the hot water heater situation.
Oh,
and
yeah.
With a code that takes people to a page on our website that talks about home electrification and all the resources that are available to folks. I think that, I don't know what the feasibility or cost of doing something like that would be, but the more we can highlight that type of thing and just make it part of the public conscious and get people thinking about it, better.
I think I'm gonna do it in my home.
Yeah.
When our guests come,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
truly.
like,
Yeah.
this hot water is brought to you by.
Great idea.
Yeah, maybe that's an item for the next meeting too, to review some concepts. Cause we had talked about doing that for BHCC
Mhm.
as well, and potentially
Yeah.
bringing in youth and
What's PHCC?
Bellhaven Community Campus. Sorry. Okay,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
we can talk about that another
Okay.
day, and potentially the EV chargers too. I think we have one more item.
Was that informational items and reports and announcements?
That
or-
was just reports
Yeah.
and announcements.
Okay, so then we'll do item F,
Yes.
informational items. Our next item is informational items. Informational items are transmitted to the EQC and staff's efforts to provide updates. Informational items are not action items. However, city council staff or members of the public may ask questions or make a comment. Are there questions or comments from EQC on informational item F1, 2024-25 Environmental Quality Commission Work Plan?
Oh,
Is this where we would talk about moving the,
We captured that. We're good, yeah.
then Ms. Launder, do we have any public comment on this item?
Sure, do we have any public comment in the room on F1 informational items, work plan? And online, I don't see any hands raised. So we're good to close public comment.
All right, then this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, John. All right.